topics on the radio. Shut up, it's Gaming Podcast Audio.
Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And what do you know? It's been a big week in gaming. Sort of. I'm integot for episode 24 on Sunday, the 27th of December, 2020. As always, I'm joined by the greatest Xbox RPG player in the Southern Hemisphere, 1 billion people, the official Xbox Hall of Famer, Swinny.
Yo.
And next-gen gamer himself, Red Bull drinker, interrupter-in-chief, Mike.
What? I do not interrupt. Shut up. That's not true.
Do you actually have a Red Bull? Because I wrote that as a joke.
I actually do have one, yes.
That is unbelievable.
It's like I'm unintentionally advertising all these companies and I'm getting nothing for it.
That is unbelievable.
Here's the PlayStation Cup. Buy a PlayStation.
That is unreal.
Once again, I must also just clarify that I'm not officially in the Xbox Hall of Fame, regardless of what the picture shows. Regardless of what the picture shows, no one will see this part of the show anyway. They'll just see a clip and they'll think that I'm in the Xbox Hall of Fame.
You are.
You're not even real. You're just an Xbox.
We covered it last week. They redid the numbers, and now you're actually officially in. And in this week, we'll be covering KFC's new custom PC that also heats chicken, a crazy Minecraft speedrun story. And then we also celebrate the best and the worst of this year in the Big Year in Awards special. No corrections this week, Swinny?
Nah, no corrections because
you did a good week.
I'm still got PTSD from getting the Mass Effect and Dragon Age multiplayer wrong.
You really
I
got
screwed something up last week.
What was it?
I don't know. I don't remember. But I definitely screwed something up last week. And I remember telling you guys, I screwed something up. Can we remember this? And we all forgot, so that's fine.
Oh, okay. That's worrying.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And in this week, Swinny, what have you been playing?
So this week, I have played a little bit more Dragon Quest, but not as much as I was expecting because 2 other games took my time. First is The Messenger.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're also playing that. You both are playing that, aren't you?
Well, I started playing it last week, remember, as part of the wrapping up. I kind of started it as wrapping up some of the 12 Days of Christmas stuff, and then I just kept playing it because, I wanted to. And I beat the game. I think I'm at the last section I beat the game and beat the DLC, but there's a couple of cool little achievements I might try to get in it, which, and wrap that game up. But, that game is fantastic.
It's really good.
I kind of wish that we could have like at some point a spoiler discussion around it once you've had a chance to play it, integot.
I'll prioritize it then. I got to
get prioritize it. It's really cool.
There's a lot of things on my priority list.
And
after I played the big, there's some other year games.
So that was the game that occupied probably the first part of my week, and the other one I haven't been able to put down Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla again. I've put so much time into that this week. I'm on break at the moment, and the story in that game is picked up. But I've got a couple of things I just want to mention about Valhalla. So they had a Yule Festival celebration, like an event. So it's a pretty neat idea. They give you some, events that you can do, and then you get special tokens that then you use to get stuff, kind of like they do seasonal events in live service games. But the problem with this event is that it introduced a whole bunch, it's introduced so many bugs and glitches that people are so pissed off about this event.
New bugs and glitches.
Yes. And they're like, we can't wait for this event to be over, thinking that it's just going to, all the bugs will go away. Who knows what's going to happen?
They might not.
That's really crazy.
So
it doesn't sound like it's that big of an update. How do they introduce bugs?
Well, I'm going to explain an example of one of the most infamous bugs. So there is an event where and it's actually pretty cool, where you're fighting in an arena, like bare-fisted fighting, but after each round, Eivor, your character, drinks skulls a mug of beer, so each round you're getting drunker and drunker and drunker. It's actually a really fun concept.
Can I pause you? Is it Eivor or Eivor? You said Eivor. Eivor, not
I believe
Eivor.
No, I don't know which one. I'd just say Eivor. So.
You played it for 40 hours, not me.
I don't know. Anyway, so and then it does cool stuff where you can't lock onto the enemies at some point because you lose your focus and everything. And then I'm like, okay, cool, did that, did some other categories, and then, kept playing the game. And then I saved my game, came back, loaded it up, and
I see where this is going.
I'm like, okay, why am I drunk after loading my game?
Oh no.
And when you're drunk, because in Valhalla in general, you can do drink competitions, and afterwards you're drunk for like a minute and a half. You're woozy. The screen is all like just all screwed up. And now every single time I load my game, I'm drunk. It's
Permanently drunk, or drunk for a minute and a half?
Drunk for a minute and a half. Every single
It's always
time.
been funnier if you could finish the whole game drunk.
And I looked it up. So many people have this problem. So this is a very widespread issue that they haven't patched yet.
That's kind of awesome.
It's kind of like of all the bugs to have, that's one of the funnier ones. But unfortunately, that's not the only bug that I had this week. And the other one is not funny in any bloody way. So this is probably not related to the Yule event. But I had a weird situation where one of the achievements in the game is to complete all the regions, which means doing everything in the game. Like, it's a huge achievement. They haven't put this kind of achievement in Assassin's Creed in ages. They didn't have it in the last two or anything. So they put in this where you need to find every single, what they call, piece of wealth, every single artifact, complete every single event, everything. And I had a situation where a world event glitched out on me and I couldn't complete it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this achievement by itself is going to take like 100 hours probably plus to complete. And I'm like, thankfully the game, it's almost like they know the game has staggered autosaves where it keeps like 4 different autosaves.
I can see why now.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing. That's actually a great feature, and some other games do it, and I'm happy with that. But I'm like, thank God they do that. And now because I know that stuff glitches out of me, I had another glitch yesterday where it didn't register that I picked up one of the pieces of wealth, and I literally can't if I keep playing the game, I probably can't complete it. That achievement, which is like one of the biggest achievements in probably in Assassin's Creed history. So now I've got to basically be really careful about saving till they patch these glitches out. So I'm not happy with that.
Why does that slip under the radar? I don't get it. Like, doesn't the game director go, oh shit, isn't there a good probability that something will glitch out and people will miss out on this when you have to collect 1,000 different things?
I don't know. But
they kind of go, this is a bad idea too.
The last thing I'll just say is that the story in that game has really picked up. It's actually probably one of the best stories in Assassin's Creed games. So really, really having a lot of fun with it. Other than the glitch.
How about the length of the game? Because that's something that they said prior to launching they were going to shorten the main campaign.
Well, so far it doesn't feel longer. The game itself, with like the completionist side of it, yes, because you didn't have to collect every single thing in Odyssey if you wanted to do everything. But the thing with the main campaign is it's hard to tell Assassin's Creed games because they will sometimes drop something and you're like, oh, I thought I was at the end, and then suddenly there's a whole nother arc or something. So it's I'll only be able to judge that properly until I think I've actually beaten it. So
okay, fair enough. How about you, Mike? What have you been playing?
Cyberpunk, of course. Still loving the hell out of it.
Well, we're talking about save glitches. We're not, I think we're going to not cover Cyberpunk until there's like good news, right, about it. There was a hot fix the other day.
I love it. I reckon it's awesome.
Yeah, no, you've said that a few times. And I've heard so many different views on it, but I probably say the people I respect the most have been saying, hey, there is a really great game here. It's just...
it needs work.
I stand by what I said. Like, they really should have just pulled the trigger when they delayed it and said, it's not going on consoles. We're going to focus on PC and then console next year.
Yeah.
That's
good. I've been enjoying it. No, unfortunately, no game-breaking bugs like what Swinny experienced. But that's been really good. And of course, the Messenger. To me, that is... when did it actually come out, Swinny? Was it this year or last year? Because I only saw it this year.
It wasn't this year, no. The game's been out for ages.
All right, it's been out for a while.
At least to me, 2019, but I think it was 2018.
It was the surprise game of the year for me. For many multiple reasons that we can't talk about, because there's spoilers galore. 2018. But it was absolutely the surprise game. So I've been playing that. It gets pretty difficult at times, and I feel like other games that were similar, like X and Verge, for example, is a good example. I probably would have given up by now. I would have gone, okay, this part's a little too difficult, whatever. But with this one, I just wanted to keep pushing through. I remember I got stuck in one of the bosses, Swinny, the one with fire. Doesn't really give much away.
Yeah.
And it's like Dark Souls. You really need to learn the strategy and then hone it down to just the perfect combination of button presses. It's really cool.
There's one boss in the DLC that took me ages, but also I was so happy when I beat it. But to your note about difficulty, it's definitely a super challenging game, but I found that it was just almost like perfectly balanced difficulty wise for me.
Really well balanced.
And now do you see what I mean by saying the game makes you feel like a badass by the way you move around the levels?
Absolutely is. The only thing that I wish the game had, and then to me it'd be a perfect game, is double jump.
Well, you do have a double jump. You just need to work for it.
Yeah, I know you got to work for it, but I mean, I wish it didn't have to work for it. You just had an actual double jump.
It breaks the whole design of the game if you don't.
Of course it would. That's the thing. It would kind of change too many things. There's another game that I was playing, which Grim Valor, I think. Grim Valor, what's it called? Jesus. It used to be a mobile game and it got ported to the Switch. Part of the Soulslike genre, of course. So I've been playing that as well this week, and that gives you a double jump from the get-go. And I was like, oh, thank you. Finally a game where I can do a double jump and not have to, go halfway through the game without it. So I think more games need double jumps. I have a double jump in Cyberpunk. There's an upgrade you can get that gives you the ability to do a double jump. And it's weird. It actually changes the game dynamic quite a bit, because all of a sudden in some places it actually plays like Doom Eternal. It doesn't play like Cyberpunk, because you can just run around jumping and shooting things, and it almost feels like a different game. It's really weird. So that's what I've been playing.
That's the positive feedback that I've heard about the game. That if you want to be sneaky and hack and get around, you can do that. If you want to just balls to the wall combat, shotguns, you can do that. If you want to, jump around, be a bit of a ninja with the katana, you can also do that. So
it all works, yeah. See, that's the thing. I think people have been really, in some ways rightfully so, but I think they've been overly critical because the expectations were so high. But if I compare that game to something like Deus Ex, it offers me all of kind of a similar options in the sense that you can approach a mission with stealth, you can approach a mission with all guns blazing. It's got a lot of the similar concepts. Yet a game like that never got review bombed and people didn't hate it. I guess maybe because it didn't have as many bugs. But yeah, I think people are being a little overly critical for this game. And if you kind of don't go crazy with, I don't know, stuff like trying to kill pedestrians and then worrying that the cops are going to appear out of nowhere, because they obviously haven't put that in yet. If you don't do that kind of stuff and you play within the game bounds, it's excellent. Really, really enjoy it. So that's enough of that. I'll try to not talk about it every single week.
No, because you haven't finished the main campaign yet, right?
No, I haven't. It goes on for apparently it actually doesn't go. The main campaign doesn't go a lot, but there's a lot of side stuff. And so far, a lot of the side stuff's been really good. Other than, the typical Assassin's Creed repetitive, kill a bunch of peeps here and that kind of stuff. It's been pretty good. Really good side stories and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I haven't actually told you guys, but I'm reviewing another game for Vux. So I'll cover it here as well next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think this is going to be as good. I've only just started playing it. It's called Override 2 Super Mech League. So it's like a mech. What was that?
This isn't a secret, obviously, because you just told us what it is.
Well, no,
are you going to beep it out?
No,
I'll be playing.
No. It just came out, so it's not embargoed or anything like that. So yeah, it's like a mech fighting game, and there's DLC for Ultraman. I'm not sure if you know who Ultraman is, Mike.
Like that, Mega Man, but better.
No, that's cool. I think that was shown in one of the Switch indie presentations or something. I think it will show, or partner direct or something like that.
Okay. I don't remember that. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I'll see how that goes. Keeping an open mind to it, obviously. But I do like fighting games, so see how that goes. And then the other one is, as you know, especially if you've been listening to the podcast, a lot of things that I picked up during the year were all for Christmas. So I've now received them all, given that it's just a couple of days after Christmas. I'm still in the Christmas festivities. I got my Christmas shirt for the people who are watching the video podcast. But yeah, so it was genuinely like a super like Nintendo themed Christmas for me. It was like quite ridiculous actually. I got I think like 4 Switch games, the Game and Watch that's just behind me. But I have to say, and I won't like cover it like crazy, but I got Mario Kart Live.
Oh,
Have you guys played with that at all?
no, how is it?
Have you played with it, Swinny?
No, I'm just trying not to interrupt too much.
So this thing is like, it's like I get the downsides to it, so I'll cover that in a second. But the device is so magical, man. It's like I broke it open, like set it all up on Christmas Day when my wife's family were over, and like everyone was captivated by it because it's just such a weird thing of having this little device, like a little Mario go kart that everyone's familiar with, and it's going around. And then you look at the Switch, and I had it on the big TV as well, and you've got that perspective, and everyone's like looking at it going, it looks like you're going so fast, but you're actually, when you see it in real life and on the ground, it's like so slow.
POV is really high, or what makes it feel?
I don't know if you've ever been on a go-kart, but
Yeah, many times. I love go-karting.
yeah, so go-karts, you don't go that fast generally. Like I've gone on really quick go-karts, but they're still like 40, 50 Ks an hour, which is pretty fast for a go-kart. Yeah, but the difference there is that because you're so low to the ground, you know, things just feel like they're coming at you so much quicker. It's like when you're flying on a plane, it doesn't feel like you're traveling as fast. You look down, everything's moving slowly. So with the the Mario Kart Live, because it's so low, even at a really slow speed, it just looks like you're going really fast, and it just works so well. Like it blows my mind how well it works. And you know, there's limitations like how far it can go. It's kind of got this annoying thing. It needs to be connected to the Switch and your Wi-Fi. So you've got like a double whammy of like Wi-Fi issues there. Okay. Yeah.
And how's the lag?
Oh, totally fine. Like it wouldn't.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like super responsive.
That's
It's 100% my favorite RC car thing I've ever seen. So like if people are into RC cars and they have a Switch, because you got to buy a Switch otherwise, you know, like it's definitely something to look at. And I mean, like even my wife's dad was going to go pick it up, but he doesn't have a Switch. And my wife's brother, who lives there at the moment, does, but he's leaving. So, you know, I'm like, oh, you got to go get a Switch and this thing then.
Or, you know, keep her brother there.
Yeah.
Lock
So,
him
like,
up in the back room.
That's definitely my favorite thing of Christmas, just in terms of, because everyone else likes it as well. Like my son's like playing around with it and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. And amazingly, the dogs don't seem too fussed about it. And then Swinny, I also opened up the Game and Watch. Oh, have you got the Game and Watch as well, Mike?
Yeah. Where is it? I have it somewhere here. Don't know where I put it.
I didn't even realize he had it.
Yeah, I had it. I thought I told you guys I had it last time when we reviewed it. Well, Swinny reviewed it. Yeah.
That's why I was like clicking. I was like, wait a second, I think you've got it as well. So I mean, yeah, that's really cool. Like it is one of those weird things of just feeling it is almost like felt worth it to me. I don't know, it's terrible, but I just was like, oh, just feels so cool. And just quickly on that, they are trying their hardest to hack that thing. So, and I was going to cover it this week, but it's a bit too in the weeds. But essentially, what they're doing is they've 3D printed a back plate for the Game and Watch, so you can remove the back plate, put this new back plate on it, and then just be able to plug something in to be able to then put things onto it. So they're really like figuring it all out so that you can actually transfer ROMs onto it and play other games, even though it's like they've blocked every other avenue to try to stop this.
That's really cool, but at that point, if you're going to the effort of swapping the entire back part of your Game and Watch, you might as well just like get it. I think there's better options for emulating stuff.
You'd think so by that point. And the cost, then you got to buy a 3D printer.
Yeah, I know, but it just I kind of love that spirit of the community to go.
It's really cool, yeah.
If we want to do this, we want to run Doom on it, we want to do that, and then people are like, you can't because you've got to solder. And they're like, okay, let's find any port possible to try to get it.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
Do you reckon they I mean, if I was an engineer at Nintendo, I don't know how I'd behave, but I'd be thinking, hey, let the community tinker with some of this stuff. Let them play with this device. But I can see why they wouldn't, because they want to release their own, probably Donkey Kong versions and all sorts of other things. So
yeah, I mean, like, it does seem, it would not be shocking if they do a Zelda thing, because Zelda's 35th anniversary next year. But I mean, they have done that in the past. So from my recollection with the NES Mini, they had like a message in one of the text files on the file system for people. And there's no other way you'd be able to read it unless you hacked it. So, and it was something about like enjoy the games or something like that. So
wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, but whether that's just an engineer doing something where they...
Yeah, maybe it's just an engineer going, this thing's going to get hacked.
Yeah, and in that case, especially where they've actually got it so that you can use the USB, and it's like a data USB. So the Game & Watch isn't a data USB, so you can only charge. That's all it does. Whereas with the NES and SNES Mini, you can receive and send data. So it's almost like, kind of felt almost like they did build it so that you could hack it. It's kind of a bit weird. And
are you going to tell us about all the Elgato sponsored gear?
Oh, yeah. That's the other part. Yeah. So, I got a Stream Deck, which is really cool. Because there were benefits in what I had prior. Because it was like, well, no, you had to pay a little bit. It wasn't that much for the app and stuff like that. But it's kind of my style, though, with that stuff, because it was so hacky and like all janky and stuff. And I put Band-Aids all over it to make it work. Whereas the Stream Deck is just so professional, like in what it does. It's pretty cool. I like it. So, but I'm sure I'll like stuff to set up this week for the video podcast. So, but we'll see. We'll see how we go into the next segment. So let's see how we go here, boys. So in maybe like a late entry into the most bizarre news for 2020, KFC, which they have actually previously announced this, but we thought it was a joke, but KFC has officially announced their KF console custom PC. So this was revealed back in June. And again, I think everyone just thought it was a joke from KFC Gaming. But now they've actually got deals with manufacturers like, what was it, Cooler Master. And it's a Intel Nook 9, and it's going to have a GPU where they're saying it's speccing up to be a 3080. Right,
it's really good specs.
I think 32 gig of RAM from my recollection, two 1 terabyte SSDs, and and they're advertising as VR ready and 4K ray tracing, 2040 frames per second. Like, and it is, the specs are really good. Like, you can't argue that they're good specs, but the thing that is blowing my mind and just I don't understand it is the fact that they have a chicken chamber in the custom PC tower. So in the center, you can actually pull out the chamber and put your KFC chicken in, and then push it in, and it keeps it hot. And when you actually think about it, it uses the natural heat.
Exactly, it makes sense, right? I mean, that heat needs to go somewhere. May as well use it for something other than heating your room, right? So
yeah,
great idea. The only thing that I think is disappointing is, and I think it's a deal breaker for me, is it doesn't come. I would have totally considered. The specs look good, warms my chicken up, but I think the biggest deal breaker is it doesn't come with any of those little hand wipes. So after you eat your chicken, you can quickly wipe your hands so you can touch your keyboard and your mouse and not get grease everywhere.
Why does it need to come with that when that comes with the chicken?
Because one of my most fondest childhood memories, I didn't used to eat a lot of KFC, but I ate a little bit, is the little wipes, just the smell. No. I remember that distinctive smell of those wipes, and it was a particular smell that KFC had.
You buy the chicken and it comes with the wipes, and you only need the wipes when you have the chicken.
All right, that's fair point. That's a fair point. Okay, I'm back on board to buy this baby. I'll go and save whatever $5,000-$6,000 they charge for it, chicken not included.
I'm gonna say for a KFC PC, it actually kind of looks pretty cool.
It looks cool, yeah.
That's a statement I thought I'd never make in my life.
So I went back to the original announcement, and the interesting thing is like they did say it was going to come in December, like the next, and I guess people thought, well, what is this a release date? But they did delay it, I think, because of Cyberpunk, amongst other things. But amazingly, compared to the original specs had it at 4K 120 frames a second. So they've actually bumped it up since then as well.
240, but see, the whole 240 is just like, oh yeah, on what game? Is it going to run Cyberpunk at 4K at 240? I don't think so.
No.
So it's that kind of thing. But you know what? Maybe I'm going to start a conspiracy theory here. Maybe the reason Cyberpunk was delayed and it's so buggy is because they had to test the game on this console as well.
Oh,
added that to the.
that would have been hilarious if it did launch with it.
I'm waiting for a little, and I hope they do this, for CDPR to put a little patch note that said fixed such and such for KF console in a future update.
So this begs a question, and this is probably, I think this is a perfect question for Mike.
Mm-hmm.
What constitutes a console versus a PC?
This isn't a console.
In this situation?
I don't think this is a console. I think it's obviously just a PC in a small custom case.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's all it is. It's just
I should call it a KF CPC.
I know. It's just interesting to see the angle they've taken with it, and how you've then got, social media and news sites reporting it as a new console. It's
marketing,
really,
dude. It's really marketing.
I know. It's interesting that they've taken that angle. That's all.
And now, especially now around the launch of the new consoles, it's perfect. It's a really cool marketing idea.
Yeah, but the perfect way to cap off 2020. What an amazing year! It gave us the KF console. What can I say? Nothing else happened. Just that.
Yeah, I think because the problem is all the PC stuff, all the branding, like the community branding around PC stuff. It's not. I was about to say it's not PC, but then I didn't mean that pun. It's not really politically correct. So, even the whole PC master race thing, that's like a meme in itself, but people won't understand it. So I'm sure that they would have wanted to lean into that potentially, but I think it's just fraught with danger, that whole space.
It's not as mass market, yeah. And too much of a minefield.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of the issue. So, all right, well, what price would you buy this mic? That's my question for you.
So, okay, all jokes aside, I don't think I'd buy it. But given the specs, it's got 2 SSDs in it, I think, a 3080 and stuff, custom everything.
A chicken chamber?
Custom chamber. I reckon this thing's going to be like $4,000 at least. Australian dollars. So like what? 2.5 US? 3-ish? Is my guess? Yeah. So I can't see how this is going to be cheap. The Intel Nooks aren't cheap to begin with.
Yeah.
You pay a premium on those already compared to, just getting a normal chip. So this is, I think it's going to be at least that mark.
What do you reckon, Swinny?
What Mike said, I'll defer to him on this one. I know nothing about PC hardware costs other than when the odd time I'll go buy something. I'm like, okay, that's the cost. I don't follow any of that stuff. I don't know anything about that stuff. So.
That's like when you get a super spec'd out PC and then you never play it.
Super spec'd out console. There we go.
Oh,
this is what everyone wants.
There's a thumbnail.
There's your thumbnail. wait. Let me do a thumbnail.
No.
Like they do on all those channels.
See, I can't see the video, so I'm just assuming Mike is licking. Mike is licking his PS5. That's what I'm assuming.
I was actually showcasing the Lego PC.
He's brought out the Lego PC for audio listeners.
Okay.
Exactly.
So Mike is a very I should cover that in the intro. You're a karma. I'm not going to say the.
I'm not a karma whore.
No, don't say that word.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not a karma slut.
Oh my god!
I'm not okay. What's correct? I'm not a karma prostitute. What am I allowed to say?
All right, Mike. Just a quick question. First of all, actually,
Yeah.
Does Meccano still exist?
Yeah.
It still exists.
Yeah.
Can you make a Meccano PC build?
I'll make a Meccano PC next. Okay. I'll make a Meccano
cool. Thank you.
All right, let's
or
get
a
into
Duplo build. A Duplo build would be good as well.
Duplo build.
All right, let's get into the next piece of news. So this week we also had Tencent buy out Hong Kong video game holding company Leu, and that's actually been completed. And the big shout out there is that there's 2 studios underneath that umbrella, Digital Extremes and Splash Damage. So Splash Damage, that's Gears Tactics, the multiplayer component of Gears, but then also very notably Halo Master Chief Collection. And with Digital Extremes, Warframe, they also helped co-develop Unreal, Darkness 2, and Sword Coast Legends. I've never heard of that game actually. That's
Dungeons and Dragons, Sword Coast Legends.
Okay. So we did mention this in the very first episode of the podcast, and sort of commented about there's a lot of Chinese acquisitions in the video game market, and I think since we said that, it's been an incredible flurry. As much as like we've seen some consolidation from the European and US players, it's probably been even more so from the Chinese players that they've actually bought out many smaller tiered companies at this stage. And it's something to be interested about, because just in terms of how they manage games and the communities around the games and what people can say and what they can't say and the freedoms and other things that sort of happening in that space.
I find it really interesting. So I think it was for 1.5 billion US.
Yeah,
which is more than the EA acquisition of Codemasters. So I think that just puts things in perspective. That, like, to me, like, I think of Codemasters as a much bigger entity than what I'd consider Digital Extremes and Splash Damage combined. But when you also consider probably everything else that's under Leo as well,
it's a lot of those mobile games that we don't talk about that much. I mean,
they're the Activision of China, really.
Well, I mean, Activision's becoming the Tencent of
action, or the other way around, actually. Yeah. So I'll reserve my thoughts on a company like that. But basically,
I mean, Tencent's more like Microsoft. Like Tencent's way bigger than Activision. Activision's
it's just the kind of games they tend to target and the kind of studios they tend to buy out. Although I'm surprised with something like the developers of Gear Tactics and stuff that isn't as monetizable, but I suspect it's what they're probably going to do with that whole.
Have you seen Gears multiplayer in the past? That's monetized to all hell.
It was? Okay, sorry. Then it makes even more sense.
That's probably more a Microsoft decision or a I forget the name of the coalition, the developers of the Gears games, but. Yeah, the Gears multiplayer games have especially, I think it was Gears 4, got a lot of criticism for the way it monetized its microtransactions. So.
Well, that makes a lot of sense then.
But I think again, it's mostly driven by the mobile market. Like that's where the money in gaming really is. Like even Phil Spencer sort of said it, where the dedicated console / PC market, that's like 200 to 300 million people, whereas mobile, it's now billions.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, like I saw even the other day that they're saying Among Us is the most active, most played game ever.
Wow.
And they're saying they reckon it's about 500 million people play it on a monthly basis. I'm like, it's starting.
I don't know about that.
I know, I agree. You know what it reminds me of?
No one plays it, so who are these people? And the people that I know play games, so
I know, I agree. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me when people go, 15 billion people watch the Olympics this year. And you're like, not sure if that's right. You know how many people there are in the world, so...
Imagine all the kids out there, like, this would be huge for teens and stuff like that. I reckon it would just be the biggest game.
Among Us? Yeah. Well, yeah, given that it's free on mobile and, it's that kind of tabletop stuff that we've played for a long time now, but a lot of people have never played games like that. As much as we think tabletop's big, it's not really.
But it's also, I mean, to give it credit, it's also it's built like a game. So it has a benefit of being able to include actual gameplay and like systems in it that make that stuff, I think, very engaging. Whereas some people, like, we enjoy that stuff, but some people might. I think they need something a bit more tactile, something a bit more, like that they can visualize, and that's Among Us gives them a good version of that. So.
Yeah, and look, like, I think Mike and I fully admit that we haven't given the game a fair shake. So
I think even if I did, I don't think I would really. Look, you know me, I'm open to any of those games. I'm open to any game. I'll try to enjoy it. But my gut feel is I still wouldn't.
Oh, spoiler alert, Among Us is up for a certain category where maybe we can quickly discuss that in our big year awards.
All right, fair enough. All right, well let's get to the next story. So this week we also saw that Flight Simulator, which, is one of the best games of the year, an incredibly large game, but incredibly detailed game, was updated. They've had many updates actually this year to Flight Sim, which is really, really cool. And this update on the 23rd of December has now added PC VR headset support, which previously there was like a mod to make it work, but this is directly in the game. Mike, you're the one who has the most familiarity with Flight Sim. So how does this hit you? And plus, you're a VR lover, so
I am, though not. I don't use my headset enough, which sucks. But I do enjoy the experiences whenever I do use it.
He only uses it when he needs to be a VR lover, if you know what I mean.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dude, that's the first thing I did on any.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's move on with that. So yeah, no, it's I played it at launch, so I got it just when it came out, and I had some issues with it. I think, like a lot of people do with downloading it. It would also thrash the GPU when you went to install it, like absolutely. And I don't know if that was because it was using the GPU to not decrypt, but I don't think it was using it for Bitcoin mining or something. I think it was probably using the GPU to do some decompression or something on the files. I don't know. Something was happening, so it was really weird, and it took ages to download it. But when I finally played it, amazing game. It ran okay-ish. I've got a 3900X, so you'd think it's gonna run pretty well on that. Ran okay-ish on the 2070. But the game blew me away. I managed to find I think I said this on a previous episode, I managed to find all the different houses that I lived in purely by taking off at an airport and in my head sort of remembering the general direction that it would be and following roads and stuff that I recognized. And I found all the houses. It's insane. So it's that detailed that you can use it to be able to pinpoint and find stuff like that. So that just blew me away as an experience. So being able to do that in VR, holy moly, this thing would just be insanely awesome. So I do have the Oculus. I'm going to give it a crack. I just don't think my 2070 is really up to scratch to do it in VR properly. So that worries me a little bit. You need a pretty beefy machine to play it in the first place. To play it in VR, I think you need a really, really beefy machine. So
because with VR as well, you would want to get, like 90 frames a second or something like that.
You like even just normal. I don't get anywhere near that. So I don't know how it's gonna work for a lot of people. I think it's gonna be a really niche thing, at least for a while people get the opportunity to upgrade or prices of cards go down. Heck, even availability. I can't even get my hands on a 3070 or a 3080, and I've been trying for a while. So
I mean, considering it's VR, you'd probably be worthwhile. If you're on the cusp of being able to run it, just probably taking a couple of settings down, surely. Just
of course, yeah.
Just run even smoother on VR.
But it is a pretty intensive game that even compromising and dropping settings without VR, you would struggle to get 60 sometimes on a lot of machines. You struggle to get 60, and most people don't have 30 series cards. Heck, a lot of people don't even have 20 series cards. So
I wonder if you can mod it to work on the Labo VR.
Probably.
Well, that's a machine adept at playing at low frames per second. So.
Oh god, that must have been. I know Labo didn't set the world on fire after it came out, but the whole VR part of it must be the most like fizzle ever. Like it's just nobody talked about oh, there's like a VR mode added to these couple of games, because it was a nothing, wasn't it?
It does seem like someone said to Nintendo, "Hey, Virtual Boy, just the worst VR product ever," and then Nintendo themselves said, "Hold my beer." But just on Labo quickly, like Labo itself is really awesome. But it's very, very targeted. It's like it works so great for like a kid who's like 5 to 7-ish, and then like the parent, and then that's kind of like the space. What was that, Mike?
That's extremely targeted, actually. Yeah.
And it's like it would have been great, I think, in an educational space, but it's too costly. Like to say, each kid is going to get a set of Labo, because then they all need to have switches as well, So.
And I understand the sort of the commercial side of it around, not like forcing you to have the physical cart. You have to have the physical cart to get things working. Same as Ring Fit, but it is a bit of a pain in the ass that it's structured like that. It'd be nice if it was just digital. I know why they don't do it. It's obvious why they don't do it. But just quickly on VR, Mike, sorry, like this is a real technical question, but because with VR, like what are the displays? Are they like, 1440p displays?
They vary, but I think the Oculus, and no one quote me on this, the Quest that I have, I think it's 1440 per eye. So
that's 2.
You need a really high res, and then to get it at 90, you'd have to put a lot of settings down, a lot.
Yeah, because with my setup, I have it so because I've got high refresh rate monitors, but I have my 1440 and then 1080 just so that if a game's too crazy, I can still run it at a higher frame rate. And yeah, that's crazy to me. That's thinking basically it's running 2 independent screens, 1440. You'll probably get some wins, obviously, with the physics engine and stuff, but that's still a lot. And you're running at like minimum 90 FPS.
Yeah, that's crack because I need to set it up. And I was going to also ask you, when are you going to start Alex?
So, unfortunately, given that Sydney has been like pseudo lockdown, my folks weren't able to come up for Christmas, which was a bummer. And then also my really good mate who's going to come up with his family, they had to cancel their trip as well. So,
bummer.
Yeah, now I'm a proud owner of Alex with no ability to play it.
Guess who's getting a VR headset next Christmas?
I actually think, I'm not sure, like, maybe I should try to refund it on Steam, see how that goes.
You probably can if you haven't played it.
I haven't played it. I haven't installed it.
Yeah.
But I think it's past 2 weeks from memory.
Oh, that definitely feels like more than 2 weeks since we talked about it.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-week limit.
You don't think that eventually a VR headset will be worthwhile to
just purchase? Yeah.
As an investment for the show, maybe?
No, because he doesn't want to admit. We had this debate a while ago where I said, VR is going to be big. People are going to get headsets, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, nah, I don't think so. VR is not going to be that big.
Mate, you even said...
He doesn't want to buy one now because then he'll admit defeat.
I kind of think he was right.
Oh, no. You don't even play it. You even said it yourself.
The moment he buys one, his argument's not going to stand as well. So
no, what would be funny, because I've proven... The argument's been proven correct so far, like way in my favor. But the funny part about it is it would be funny if I got one and then I got hooked on it. No. So on the VR front, what I'm waiting for is PSVR 2, because the hot rumor is, and we don't deal with rumors on the show, but this is just a conversation now, is that it's going to work for PC natively. So PC and PlayStation.
Okay, that's cool.
So, because like for me, I really want to play Astrobot. Like that's Astrobot and I'm talking about Rescue Mission, the first Astrobot game, and Alex are the only real 2 VR games I have any interest in playing. So yeah, I'll try to refund it. I'll see how I go. And because I'm sure it's going to go on sale again. So I'll just wait till it goes on sale again and buy it.
Nah, just get a VR headset instead.
I think mine's a little bit more cost effective than your idea.
But my idea is more fun.
It's true. It's true. All right, let's jump into the next story. So this is a really different story, and it's actually got some interesting twists and turns. So Swinny and I in particular are really big fans of speedrunning, like not doing it, but just watching it. So Mike would hate that.
No, I actually probably wouldn't mind it because it's quick.
I used to do my own speed runs of Donkey Kong Country 3 in the back in the day, and Day of the Tentacle. Sure, I didn't use any tech. I didn't know what I was doing, but I enjoyed speedrunning.
So, okay, I'll just, we've already gone off track at the start of the story, but my experience with speedrunning, and like this is a rare moment of humility for me. So, for whatever reason, I got Odyssey a little bit earlier than I was meant to, Mario Odyssey, and I was able to beat it. And I like the time that I had was like, oh, this is like the fastest time in the world to complete this game. I should submit this to speedrun and then say, hey, I'm the number one speedrunner of Odyssey at some moment in my life. And then I realized that there's a whole like mod checking, blah, blah, blah. So there's always a delay on that site anyway. So I'm sure other people would have already had a better time. But yeah, that was my brief stint. Anyway, so there's been a huge controversy. It's quite interesting, actually, in the Minecraft speedrunning community. And in terms of Minecraft speedrunning, the challenge there, and I guess the framing of it, because there's always, certain runs that people do, certain types of runs. So with Minecraft, really the main run that people do is sort of like a random seeding run. And there's a whole bunch of things that you can do and a whole bunch of tricks and tips to be able to get to the Ender Dragon and actually close out that game. And the time to be able to beat it is incredible, given the average time that people take to beat that game. And that's like defeat the Ender Dragon is like about 100 hours, I think, on average for people. So, it's an interesting category because it's so focused on RNG, like random number generators. It's
absolutely insane. Like as someone that plays a lot of RPGs with random drop rates, this scares me. I'm like, I don't want any part of these kind of RNG rates.
Yeah, and like Swinny, speedrunning RNG is like such a core component for good or for bad in speedrunning. So there's many speedruns where there's certain parts of the game, and unfortunately, it could be really deep into the game where RNG is really critical for you to save a minute or two. And if you don't save that time, then it's basically an unviable run. Like things like that are quite common in speedrunning.
It's crazy. Like games that talk about RPGs, games that are turn-based, that have random encounters. The amount of work that they've done to decipher how the seeds are generated and how to avoid random encounters. It's kind of crazy, to essentially mitigate as much possible RNG as they can.
Yeah, definitely. So speedrunning is really cool. It's like gained a lot of traction and popularity. I think if anyone wants to get their head around it, there's a really good YouTube channel called Summoning Salt. That's correct, right, Swinny?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I think that's a really great way to just get your head around speedrunning. Go on that channel, check out the most popular videos there. They're really cool kind of introductions into speedrunning. But essentially with Minecraft, the whole thing's RNG. Like it's way less skill, and there's a lot of skill, but the RNG is such a core component, and that's kind of what an interesting part of the Minecraft speedrunning, because normally people are trying to avoid RNG. This is all about RNG. Now, so that's like speedrunning for Minecraft. Then there's a YouTuber, and he's a huge YouTuber. It's like 12 million subscribers, called Dream. So massive YouTuber, does lots of like let's plays and videos and all that kind of stuff that popular YouTubers do. Very unfamiliar for us. And essentially he on the side does speedrunning for Minecraft because he does a lot of Minecraft videos. And he had got like top 5 in the world for some of these runs, which is pretty incredible for a person who's not doing it in a dedicated way. And I think the fact that he's not doing it like as a 24/7 thing, whereas a lot of the speedrunners in that community are often, just doing this, grinding it out day after day, cause people to be a little bit suspicious. It's like, how is this guy doing so well when, other people are grinding it out 24/7? And there was one stream he did recently where he did set a time for the new version of Minecraft. I think it was either the best time or it was like, again, one of the top 5 times. And people were just like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Like he's having, just eyeballing it. People are like, he's having way too much luck. Like essentially, like there's heaps of components in the game where it's like a 50-50 chance of something happening, and he's just getting those coin flips over and over and over again to come up as his heads. So the moderators on is it speedrun.com? I always forget because it's speedrun and speedruns.
I'm not sure of exactly which one this is myself.
It's the big one. I can't remember. I think it's like speedrun.com. They actually compiled like all the runs that he was doing on the stream, including the one that he actually got. That was like one of the top tiered ones. And they started going, okay, well, like that's a 1 in 12 chance, or this is a 1 in 2 chance. And they started like mapping it all out. And they made this amazing video that we can link into the show notes. And essentially, they calculated that the whole run would be a 1 in 7.5 trillion chance of happening, how the stream eventuated. Right? So essentially, when you go 1 in, 7.5 trillion, the guy's cheated. Because the thing is with Minecraft, you can manipulate...
Allegedly, yes, good point, Mike. Allegedly. Well, this is not me saying it. This is the mods are saying. Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if this is exact. Is it mcspeedrun.com? Because that's what they've linked all the stuff off. So Minecraft.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I was saying a different one. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the correction there. Saves us from next week. And so like there was the accusations, and then the whole community was like, Dream's cheated, this guy's the biggest cheat, it's going crazy. All right. And like lots of YouTubers were weighing into it because he's a big YouTuber with like 12 to 14 million subscribers. And then just about 3 days ago, I think he dropped a video, which was like my response to it. And, and I guess he has the resources, but what he did was he hired a PhD from Harvard, who's like an astrostatistician, to break their video apart. And then he wrote this 14-page paper about how it's wrong, like all the stats and the analysis. So people are going through it. It's like, oh my God, like everyone's been blasting him is completely wrong. And then the funny thing is in this video that Dream made is like, it's something like, I think they were off by 7.4999 trillion or some number like that. Like in terms of the chance. So what I said was like 7.5 trillion, 1 in 7.5. I think they were off by 7.499 trillion.
So we're still talking about like how many millions?
Exactly. So this is the interesting thing, right? Then it came down to essentially they're saying it's probably like a 1 in 100 million run.
Right. Which look is possible, hence why it's 1 in 100 million. But highly unlikely that's legit.
It's allegedly possible. And then like for one more twist in the story, because this was going crazy on the statistics subreddit.
Oh yeah.
Because everyone's debating about statistics. And I should say, like, I've got a maths degree. I don't have a stats degree. Maths to me is so much easier than statistics. Statistics, just because you're trying to model things and say this thing has like a normal distribution, behavior. Well, but that could be that could be slightly off and then really throw things out. Then for the final twist, they had this guy who's also a PhD in stats, and he was being verified by Reddit. So that means he had to show his credentials, prove it, do all this stuff. And he wrote this huge Reddit post breaking down the paper and saying, I get what they're doing here, but they've got the wrong distribution. And it's
on that paper that was breaking down. Wow.
Yeah. And he's like written this thing and it's got like 8,000 or 10,000 upvotes or whatever. And he's basically breaking it apart as to why the paper is also really, really flawed. And essentially his summary in the end was the original analysis, while, there were problems with it, it's still more accurate than the paper. And he's essentially like that guy was starting to accuse Dream of manipulating it. Like he hired someone to write a paper, not being independent and all this other kind of stuff. It's so fascinating. Because the thing to me that I thought was so odd is like, number one, no one knows what this Dream guy looks like. He's never done like a face cam thing. And then he's such a massive YouTuber. He doesn't need to do this, but his reputation's a bit on the line with everyone.
It's totally on the line now. Yeah.
So I just thought it would be a funny story to cover.
It's kind of crazy because I hadn't heard about this, but just a couple of days ago, I watched a video from an Australian speedrunner that is very popular on YouTube where he talks about speedrun controversies and stories called Carl Jobst or Jobst.
Oh yeah, I know that guy. Yeah.
And there was someone that apparently equaled the Super Mario Brothers world record on who wasn't even like one of the like he basically did it in such a small amount of attempts, and it's the same kind of thing where technically he has the evidence to prove that his run was legit, but because of the amount of he's been proven to have cheated in the past, and because of all these other things, they haven't upheld it. They haven't actually. So it's kind of like this situation where technically they don't have the evidence to say he has cheated, but all the everything else is basically saying it's so unlikely that this would actually happen. You know, it's kind of just weird to back that this stuff like, I watched that other thing, which is kind of been something that's going on for the last couple of months in the Super Mario Brothers world record community.
Yeah, I saw that one as well, and I think it's going to be just a complete problem in the speedrun community. I mean, they've gone from it was very just, by honor basically, because why are people doing this? Who cares? It's just all nerds like us, right? It's so nerdy and niche. It's nerdy for nerdy people, right?
Yeah.
And I say that with love because I love this stuff. But they had stuff where they didn't even realize that they were playing, one person was playing on a virtual console version, which runs slightly slower, and then they'll jump across to the proper version. And it's like, oh, I've improved my time by a minute. It's very rudimentary, I guess, at the start, but now it's starting to become more popular. It's actually, there's so many problems with it because you're trusting people. They're running on their systems. Who knows, And I guess you go all the way back to King of Kongs, right? With Billy Mitchell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of stuff that's allegedly. He sues everyone, so it's very much alleged.
It is very alleged. We're not going to talk about Billy Mitchell.
Don't even mention. You just don't want to summon him. So I'd encourage you guys. To check this stuff out. It's quite funny. I feel like there's going to be one final twist in the story because there's a bit too much.
He'll get a presidential pardon.
There's a bit too much smoke with the story, so I feel like there might be a smoking gun out there that gets someone in trouble. So, all right, well, let's get into
the smoking gun. That's actually Notch, the creator of Minecraft. Dreams.
That would be sick if he weighed in.
No, that is him. He has dreams.
I get you. That's true.
He's just good at putting on a different accent.
All right, well, let's get into my favorite segment of the week, the bargain bin. So this week, again, Epic Game Store has been doing their 15 days of free games. It's almost exactly followed what that list that I said last week. So I actually panicked because I thought I forgot to get one of the games. I've never missed a game since they started doing this, apart from Shadow Complex, which I was bummed about. But I already had Inside, so crisis averted. Just a reminder that they do have the free $15 coupons for games that are $22.99 and above until the 7th of Jan. So there's heaps of good games on there. You can get the new Squadron game that I gave you, Mike, for I don't know, $18 or something like that. So
ridiculously cheap,
yeah, no, so it's really good. So jump on there. There's heaps of deals on the Epic Game Store, Steam as well.
I think was worth noting as well that came out to $19 or something.
Yeah, that's a good shout out. And just on the Switch, some of our highlights. There's lots of sales on all the systems. So if there's a particular game you're after, I'd be jumping online and just checking it out. But some of the highlights for us, Octopath Traveler, that was 50% off at the moment. So that's about $45 Australian until the 5th of Jan. Rivals of Ether, so that's the first sale it's had on the Switch. So it's $30 now. That's to the 5th of Jan. I put that in there to try to encourage Swinny to buy that game so that I can play him, but he won't.
Well, we don't even play Smash Brothers enough, so.
By the way, we've played literally hundreds of hours of that game. Ease 8, is it? What was that, Swinny?
So I just put this in there just to make you pronounce it, hopefully.
I said it right, didn't I?
No, the whole thing. I was waiting for you to say the whole thing.
He's 8?
Lacrimosa of DANA.
Who knows? The yeast games are just weird.
You don't know either. Okay, so That's 60% off. It's about 36 Australian dollars until the 10th of
Actually
Jan.
looks pretty good, honestly. That game looks really good.
Ease 8.
It looks really good, yeah. So
yeah, I thought you'd be really into Ease. Aren't they on Xbox?
only East Origin. That's the game, and that came out. That game is like that's really old. That game, and it only came out a couple of years ago. So none of the other East games are.
Interesting, because that's really well regarded. Like along, there's a few content creators that I follow that are really into RPGs.
Yeah,
and they always rave on about it.
I can't get into the old ones. I find them really too archaic, but the newer ones are cool. So,
and then is it Cluster Truck 75% off? Is this just a joke one or?
Cluster Truck's a fun game. It's
okay.
Yeah, Cluster Truck has a really good streaming capabilities, like streaming interactive capabilities when you're playing on PC. The Switch version, though, obviously doesn't have any of that stuff, but it's still a fun game. And according to the run sheet, it's 75% off.
Yeah. Ooh, an extra percent.
Wait, is that 75% off 75%?
No, it's 75%.
Oh.
And one thing that we didn't have in the run sheet, but
typo, Mike.
Oh, jeez. I thought it was called Death Squared. Is that the right name of it?
Yeah, Death Squared's like a $1 something, really cheap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just wait, Mike. So that's like $1.50 from memory, and that's a Sydney actually, but Australian developed game. And it's funny to say this in the current COVID times, but that game genuinely, like when you are playing it with someone in the room, it's up there as one of the funnest games I've played with couch co-op. It's just like it's pretty frantic. It's really flying under the radar, which is unfortunate because it's an Australian game. But yeah, I'd highly encourage people to buy that game if you do play any couch co-op.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that. Play it with my wifey girlfriend. I just want to give a shout out. I just want to also mention that Transistor and Bastion are on heavy discount. I forget how much, but they're like $3 each or something.
Now, if only there was something called a run sheet where we could put this stuff in there.
I know,
really great.
And I were going to put it in, and then I didn't realize I should just put it in myself. So that's where I think that would be perfect. I haven't played. I bought them because I played them on PC, but I thought, man, they would be just so good to play on the Switch.
And they're Supergiant games, right?
Yeah, same
makers of Hades.
Yeah. So I think it's worth grabbing those for cheap.
And back to
is Pyre on Switch? I don't think Pyre's on Switch yet, is it?
Haven't seen it.
Pyre's the game they put out before Hades.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I don't think so. Ooh, I'm not sure. So back to the run sheet. PlayStation, again, huge sale. Same as Steam, same as Xbox, same as Switch, same as Epic. But the one thing I did want to shout out was that, and it annoys me because I'd already bought this game, but The Last of Us Part 2 is now $20 on great. Amazon in Australia, and then also at Big W. So that is just nuts. If you don't have that game, just get it. It's $20. It's so cheap.
And
Xbox Swinny
doesn't like all the controversy and stuff. Just play the first half of the game. You'll be fine.
Right, we'll get to that. That's also something we'll be mentioning in our Big Year in Awards. So for Xbox, the countdown sale is still on until the end of the year. So Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is also 30% off at EB Games, so that's about $34 Australian. And we had an announcement for the January Games with Gold, which is actually probably the best month in a long time. So we have Little Nightmares, which is an Xbox One game that's available from 1st of Jan till 31st of Jan. Dead Rising, so specifically the actual Xbox One remastered version, is available from 16th of Jan to 15th of Feb. King of Fighters 13 is a 360 game, available from 1st of Jan to 15th of Jan. And Breakdown, which is an original Xbox game, is available from 16th of Jan to 31st of Jan. And just one quick PSA, while this was known about, just a reminder that Battleborn, everyone's favorite Gearbox MOBA action hobby grade shooter game, or whatever they called it, the server's shutting down on the 25th of January.
Oh no.
Rip. All right, well, yeah, like this has been one of the craziest times for bargains, so very, very good time to buy any games, especially if you want to add to your backlog, which is ever growing and ever increasing. All right, I just want to jump into a quick segment. So the DualShock 4 back button. So I don't know if you guys even know what this is.
No, what is it? The DualShock 4 is in one of these.
So yeah, with the DualShock 4, earlier this year, Sony actually announced, you can see it in my video, Mike. Sony actually announced that they're going to have an accessory for the DualShock.
Okay.
Where you can plug it in at the bottom of the DualShock and it adds, Xbox Elite style, trigger buttons at the bottom.
Oh.
So, being the crazy Rocket League person that I am, and I'm always like, and I've actually mentioned it on this podcast. Remember when I asked you, Swinny, when I was playing Ori, I felt that I needed to press all like R1, R2, L1, L2 at certain times. And it didn't feel very comfortable. And then they had that DualShock back button attachment, but it sold out in Australia almost instantly. And I was like, and it looked like they weren't going to bring it back. I should just give a quick shout out. You can pick these up now, and they're actually pretty cheap if you buy them on Amazon. They're like $30 Australian, I think. So I've put it in, and I've actually played a lot of Rocket League with it. And to me now, I'd almost say this to me is the best controller you can get.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because of the attachment.
Well, okay, so I've always been a fan of the off-stick style because not the PS sort of symmetrical style, but more the offset style. But now that I've got the buttons at the back, and especially playing a game like Rocket League, it's kind of like mind-blowing how kind of precise I can do everything now. Because I genuinely can press 4 buttons simultaneously while controlling both the camera and my movement. And there is some crazy, it's taken a lot for my brain to get, into I can do it like this, but the more I'm doing it now, even in Rocket League, I can do more tricks than I could do before. And it's just the controller.
Well, that makes sense because, the biggest advantage, I assume, is that you can use the camera at the same time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's the same thing, right? But the fact that you can use a camera, that's a huge thing. Wow.
Yeah. And the cool thing I like about it is that this actual, I don't have it on, but when you turn it on, this is an OLED screen on the actual back of it. Cool. And you can then press the buttons to be able to set these 2 buttons to any single button on the DualShock. That's like R1, R2, but there's also the face buttons, the share buttons, whatever you want.
Yep.
It's such a niche item. I'm actually debating about just picking up a couple just to put in storage, just because I feel like
when it breaks, you'd be really pissed.
No, I just feel like in 10 years' time, people are going to be like, what the hell was that? And then it's just so hard to get because there's not that many available. And people aren't buying it, obviously.
So you want to scalp them?
No, not scalp them. I just want to make sure that if it breaks, then I have another one.
Oh, right, okay.
Have they announced a version? Have they announced the version for the DualShock 5? Sorry, the DualSense?
That's it. No. The question was going to ask the same. Oh, bummer.
No, and look,
product though, an official Sony product. Sorry,
this. Yeah. I think just let me check if I got the box
for the DualSense. Damn.
Yeah, I got the box here on the video.
Looks like a legit product.
No, it is. What do you mean? It looks? It is a legit product. But
people make funny boxes that.
It's just odd. I don't know why they made it. The speculation that I agree with is that maybe at one point the DualSense was going to have trigger buttons at the back of it. And I have to say now playing it, I actually feel like someone's going to be smart to change the orientation of the buttons. Someone out there, one of the, maybe the next revision of Xbox or hopefully with Nintendo, they'll move one of the buttons, they'll have LNR at the top and then they'll have almost Swinny, the 64 controller, the Z button.
Well, the Xbox One has the Elite controller that has the back.
Yeah, but they'll actually make that standard. You're saying, as an all.
That's what I think. I think you could go just have the 2 buttons at the top, and then have these bottom ones. I feel like just that should be it. The top buttons should be triggers. So just have the whole thing as triggers, and then these bottom ones should just be the digital. What most controllers are R1, L2, or R, L, and R. So.
How come it took him so long, till the end of the generation, basically, to do this? That's the weird part.
I think that's where the speculation, and it makes sense, right? So maybe what they were thinking was, the DualSense was going to have these buttons moved. They wanted to have something to mirror where, and then you can use your DualShock 4. But now you can't use your DualShock 4 you can't use anything other than a DualSense on the PS5 to play PS5 games. You can use a DualShock 4 to play PS4 games on the PlayStation 5. It's really straightforward, very straightforward.
Hey, Swinny, do you reckon you could finish Dark Souls using this?
He can't see it. He can't see the video.
Oh, sorry, it's the gear shifting. It's the manual gear shifting Logitech.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's
Logitech gear stick.
It's a gear stick for racing games.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. I can't see visually.
Forgetting that you can. I'm sorry.
You got to remember, it's an audio podcast.
I'm just a floating Xbox Hall of Fame trophy that I don't deserve because I'm not in the Hall of Fame.
You are. You're officially a part of it.
You're the embodiment of Cortana, just an AI that we talk to every week.
I'm really curious about this because it's one of those things where you don't know until you actually experience it. So the idea of, going away from having the double like bumper trigger style stuff, L1, L2 stuff, until you try it, it's hard to kind of have a call on it for me. But it sounds like from what I've heard from the Elite controller through to this back button that, maybe that is the wave of the future, but clearly they didn't implement it as standard for the next gen. So.
Yeah, and I think, it's so telling that they didn't do anything with the standard Xbox Series controller because they would have the data. I'm sure they have the actual data to say how many people are using the triggers on the Elite controller even. And, it's the same as Sony. As much as people want, including me, backwards compatibility, they see the data. And it's probably just saying that people aren't playing a lot of games with backwards compatibility. So why expend all the energy to make that happen? So, but I just wish, I would love for you guys to try this. I know that you Mike, you definitely play. I kind of wish I bought you one of these for our big Kringle.
The thing with this is that
nice.
I think one thing we kind of forget is that controls are already really complicated for people that are new to games. Not so much for a kid learning, more so someone. So this is only a now problem. In the future, I don't think it's probably as much of a problem. But just if you say to someone, "Oh, play a game," there's already a lot on these controllers. So I wonder if it's also at that point it was maybe getting a little to make that standard for next gen. Maybe it's the barrier's a little higher than what they'd want. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or actually sell an extra attachment for $50 for the DualSense.
True.
Which I reckon it'll happen.
Well, I would definitely get it because I was just going to buy another because I've got two DualShock 4 controllers. And I'm like, I should just get another one so that I can put it in there and have that on there. Do you want one, Mike?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind one actually. But maybe I'll order it. So hang on. I don't have a PS4 anymore, so.
But you can play PS4 games on the PS5 with this.
Use the PS4 controller on the PS5.
Only for PS4
But
games.
he doesn't have a PS4 controller though.
No, he does.
Did
you keep a PS4 controller? You didn't get rid of it?
We actually have the same one. We've got good taste.
Oh,
the white one. Okay. Arctic white.
That one's the best. So no, I do have one. So as long as it works, yeah, I'd love to use one.
All right. Well, I think it's cheaper to order too, so maybe I'll do that.
It is? Okay, cool. Then I'll just I'll beam you.
Yeah. And then when I see you in person in 5 years' time.
5 years' time, yeah, when the lockdowns.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, it's a weird accessory, but I'd actually love for you guys to try it.
Accessories.
Yeah, I really like it, man. Even I was playing Dark Souls with it, and it was like, oh, okay, this is actually useful. It was helpful for me. So, all right, well, let's get into our next big.
Wait, hang on. Whoa, wait. You were playing Dark Souls? Can we just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I already said that.
More about that?
I've already spoken about it.
But this is I know I heard that you used to play it, but you just played it with that? That means you played it recently. How far did you get? What's going on? I want to hear about this.
This is not a Dark Souls segment.
I know, but I want to hear about this. This is a momentous occasion. We've been trying to get you to play that game properly for years.
I've spoken about this on the podcast.
Tell us more. I get excited hearing about it.
There's nothing more to say. Like I said, I'd still, at this stage, like Demon's Souls more, but I haven't gone far enough into Dark Souls. The thing I've said this to Swinny, like, just my life is really busy with the kids and everything like that, and it feels like I got to get prepared for a fight playing Dark Souls. I feel like I'm going to a boxing match or something like that, you know?
Look, I don't know about you, Swinny. Tell me what you think, but I feel like Dark Souls is the kind of game that you need to dedicate time to. It's hard to get into it, then out of it, into it, then out of it. I find as a game, you kind of need to play it for a proper chunk of time.
I would agree, but also whenever I play Dark Souls, I don't play anything else. Like it engrosses me. Where I'm like, okay, I'm just playing this now until I've either finished this run or I've kind of done enough that I'm like, okay, I'll move off. You know,
it's like you need to be in the zone with that game. I think in the sense that I've tried playing it on and off, and I find I suck at it almost. Yeah. I make really shitty mistakes, or I just run in just trying to rush it. It's a different experience. So until I think you get the time to really dedicate to it, I probably wouldn't even bother with it.
No, I think the fighting, and I've been watching a lot of boxing recently, so I'm always using these analogies, but I do think it's like a boxing analogy is quite apt. It's this whole thing of you're boxing fit. You're not always like that. You know, you have to go into training camp and then you're ready for the fight, you know. So I think mentally I already know that, but I've already started Deus Ex Human Revolution, so I'm just got to get through that game, and then I probably will start Dark Souls. So that'll be the next cab off the rank. So, all right, am I allowed to go into the next segment yet, Mike?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure.
All right, so we thought as part of the end of the year, we'd do a special feature, which we're calling the Big Year in Awards. And what we've done is we've actually gone through a whole series of different categories. I'll get Swinny to start going through them. Things that, you know, appeal to us, and, you know, a few little jokey ones that are appropriate for the podcast. But, you know, our version of the sort of game awards, but really more just like of gaming in general, more so. So over to you, Swinny.
Yeah, and also just recognizing that many of us, Mike excluded, haven't played the biggest games of the year. So we also wanted to talk about things in a way that allowed us to still celebrate these big games, even if we haven't personally experienced them. Talking about the impact that they made in the year and everything. So we've actually got about 15 categories. Some of them will be quick, some of them may not be as quick, but the idea is, it's not just games, you know. There's been a lot that's happened outside of in the industry itself this year. So what we're actually looking at first is the biggest big story of the year. So
big hitter.
So I'm just going to move over to where we've got our list. So this is essentially the biggest news story, not including the console launches. So what was the biggest headline? And we've got 5 nominees. And we've also got some honorable mentions. So I'll say the honorable mention first is NVIDIA has no graphics cards. We put that as an honorable mention because that was a big thing at the time, and still is a big thing. You know, people can't get a hold of any of their new, fancy 3080. You know, I'm sure that you can you get a hold of 3090s, Mike? Or is it just 3080?
Yeah, you want to pay $3,000, sure.
Exactly. So the 5 nominees for biggest news story we had is Apple versus Epic, then Cyberpunk delays and post-launch woes, Microsoft buys ZeniMax Media, E3 and Evo cancelled, or any gaming event in general, and Halo Infinite delayed for a year. So what do you guys think? What is the biggest news story of the year?
Well, can I jump in on one? So just with the E3 and Evo being cancelled, that to me was like a huge disappointment, because with Evo, obviously I didn't say this at work, but I actually scheduled leave to watch Evo this year. because it's a live event. It goes over for a few days, and just the way it worked out. I can't remember if it was the Friday or the Monday, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna have that off, and it made sense to have breaks every now and then. But I'm like, Swinny and I are big fans of fighting games, and it just, I don't know. I thought the idea of watching it live, it'd be really cool. See how the Smash stuff goes, Melee. It wasn't going to be in it, but Ultimate and Street Fighter and stuff like that. And then when that got cancelled, or when it started to shape up as it was going to get cancelled, I was like, oh. And then I took the day off anyway. Just had a little Viking vigil for it, burnt a tree down.
And then you also had all the sexual harassment claims against the founder of Evo at the same time.
Alleged.
Well, that's what I said, claims.
Alleged claims.
Alleged claims. And
so, were they claims or not?
So basically, and because they would wanted to run a whole bunch of online stuff, and then essentially everything just got shuttered down. They're like, okay, well, Evo's cancelled this.
Everything's get shut down.
That's right. They were going to have Evo online. I kind of forgot about that. And then that part of the story was Smash wasn't involved in the Evo online, which was such a huge slap to the face to Nintendo.
And Skullgirls was, and then the creator of Skullgirls also got their own controversies. It was just a messy situation. But I don't think it's the biggest news story of the year, though.
Yeah, I wanted to cover that because that was important to me, but I don't. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Epic versus Apple, that could. I almost think in 3 years' time we might look back and go, "That's the biggest story." But it depends what happens, right?
The story hasn't been told yet. It's still, almost like the first chapter in a lot of ways, or at least we're 1/3 through the book at most.
Are we judging this based on what impact? Because I think in terms of Cyberpunk delays and stuff and post-launch, I think the fact that there were so many media outlets covering that aren't even traditional gaming outlets or anything like that, the reach was massive for something like that, surprisingly massive. Or are we talking, impact to the industry? Because I think the Apple versus Epic could have repercussions on the industry that are far wider than just that.
Really, the criteria is what we feel is the biggest
right.
story.
Okay, right. So I'm gonna go with Apple versus Epic.
Really?
Yeah.
My vote easily goes for Microsoft buying ZeniMax.
Whoa, we're in trouble, boys.
Because, by the way, we're not going to spend ages debating. This is not.
I was going to say there's a lot more to go through.
The reason being is because. Just remember that news story when it hit. They bought Bethesda. To me that was. I guess it was probably the most shocking big news story for me. Whether or not it is the biggest news story. The thing with Cyberpunk is, I think that is a huge news story, but I don't think that's going to, outside of this year, or at least the early part of next year, have a big domino effect, whereas the Bethesda buyout or ZeniMax, to me, that is huge. The same, and Apple and Epic, to me, those two are the big ones that probably deserve it. Either of those two.
But then I also think something like Cyberpunk will have a huge effect, because I think maybe now people will finally learn to not trust, promotional material. Not trust even what looks like the most trustworthy developer / publisher that we know of, that had a lot of hardcore fans, and a lot of people thought they could do no wrong, yet here we go, they did it too. So
okay. Mike, so I'll say how that's so wrong. Right? So before all the controversy and people actually got their hands on the console game, they'd sold 8 million total copies of the game. They just announced 2 days ago that they'd sold 13 million now. So 5 million more after all the controversies.
Well, you know what it's like. It's free marketing in the end, right? What's that?
Sorry, go on.
I didn't hear it either.
Marketing's good marketing in some ways, in that sense. So anyway, what are you going to go for?
Okay, so we all agree that we're knocking out E3 Evo, even though it's important to me. I think Halo Infinite, we're kind of sleeping on that a little bit, man. Essentially, the Xbox Series X launched with no exclusives.
Exactly, that was the exclusive for it.
It literally has no games that you need.
Yeah,
for.
Huge deal.
Well, big games. There's a couple of smaller games, but not one that we're talking about.
So is that your choice?
I'm just saying we're sleeping on it. Like it's
no, I agree. It's a massive one. I was thinking about that as well. Exactly down those lines. You launch an entire console, and that was clearly going to be the game for it.
I'm happy to throw my hat in with Apple versus Epic.
I think he's just trying to move it on.
No, I like it. To me, like that was such a huge news story. It's pretty crazy when you think about the fact that Fortnite, one of the biggest games in the entire world, was pulled from one of the biggest platforms in the entire world because of this.
And this could have interesting legal consequences.
Yeah, I think this one's tough because I really do think this is a 5-year thing. Because the Microsoft ZeniMax thing, if they make those games exclusive and really drive a wedge for people, and what is it called, Starfield?
Yeah.
And Elder Scrolls 6 come out and it's exclusive, even if it's for a year and a half. And they're just like, everyone's like, well, this is Skyrim 2. It's amazing. It's like the best game ever. And there's a lot of people who are going to go, hey, I might actually get on the Xbox bandwagon. That could have a huge impact to the industry. And Apple versus Epic, I just think with Apple versus Epic, I'm not going for it because I think the viability of those lawsuits winning is very low based on all the results so far. So I'm actually, Cyberpunk's massive, but then it's still just a game, and I don't think it's going to have any long-term effects. It's unfortunate because the game's always going to be marred. It's always going to be marred by this.
I don't think it's just for the game itself. I think it's going to... People are marred.
People don't. Anthem, Fallout 76. People never learn, dude. They'll never learn.
I have a feeling...
They'll never learn.
No, of course. A lot of people won't learn, but I think it's made a lot more people learn than before.
Maybe. I'm throwing my hat behind...
Move on. What do you want?
I'm doing Microsoft buys ZeniMax as the biggest story.
Whoa, so unless... You're unchanging your change, Swinny, and you're going back to that one.
No, it's staying.
Oh, look at that. It's like a strategy.
Or which one are you picking?
No, I reckon I think my first pick is that Microsoft buying ZeniMax is the biggest news story of the year.
All right, cool.
But you changed your mind, didn't you?
Not including the console launches, just to clarify.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right.
Awesome. So that took 10 minutes and we've got another 14 to go.
We're all good. So the biggest small story of the year. So this is essentially like the biggest niche story, or the story that went under the radar that we kind of think was important, but was still a relatively small story.
Yeah.
So the honorable mentions, we had Amazon announcing Luna, their streaming service, because nobody cared about that.
I've heard it once. Someone talking about it once this year.
That was us.
Because it's out. It's actually out.
And also the fact that they announced Earthlock 2, which is a game I love, so I just want to put that as an honorable mention. But for our 5 nominees for biggest small story of the year, we have the launch, or I guess the rise of the Melee rollback mod Slippy and what that meant to the community, Smash community. We have Michelle Ancel, creator of Rayman, Beyond Good and Evil, leaving the games industry. We had the Melbourne Monolith in Flight Simulator. We have the Aiden Chronicle Kickstarter and how well that went. And we have the Analog Pocket pre-orders and the kerfuffle around that. So,
the one that made me laugh the most was the Melbourne Monolith. You know what this is, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Flight Simulator, there was a incorrect value in the free open database, which has maps. I can't remember what the name of it is. It's like a competitor to Google Maps. So someone had entered the wrong value on the floors, created this huge monolith in Melbourne, which is our home city.
Now, they actually discovered there was a couple of other monoliths around the world as well.
There were, yeah.
Oh, really? And there was like, what do you call it?
Black hole thing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Which they patched, unfortunately.
Well, that's the thing. I can't know if they patched the monolith already. Surely that would have been patched.
Yeah, it got patched straight away.
Well, then I don't think it deserves because it no longer exists.
Well, no, but it was still a big piece of story of the year. It doesn't have to have an impact ongoingly. Big story. Honestly, I'm not aware of any of the other stories well enough, so I'm just going to pick this one. So you guys think?
I think that the Analog Pocket stuff for me was really cool, but I'm so blinded by it with all the analog stuff I have. But I actually think this one's super easy, man. Slippy, the Melee rollback mod created by Fizzy, which is like, by the way, the worst series of names ever. But the guy Fizzy who made Slippy, and then he has another site called Gizzy or Dizzy or something like that. That is by far the number one niche story this year. Like the fact that guy spent 6 months making the netcode for a game that came out in 2001 from memory, better than Nintendo can for Smash Brothers Ultimate, and to be fair, better than Capcom does for Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, that's big.
Is insane. Like to me, that it's just no doubt that it's number one story. How about you, Swinny?
Yeah, I'll go with that. Now that I remember what you guys spoke about it, yeah.
So
that's Slippy then.
I think that Slippy is my favorite here as well.
Okay, well, I thought you were going to be a contrarian and go something else.
No comment. Okay.
That's such a contrarian move.
Yeah, exactly. So our third category is biggest I am disappoint of the year. So this is our biggest disappointment in a game or a developer or a community. Basically, something that we're like, man, we expected you guys to do much better on this. I am disappointed. So we have 3 honorable mentions. First is Super Mario 3D All Stars. Wait, no, maybe 2. Wait, did someone just remove an honorable mention, or am I misreading? Okay,
no,
only 2, right? And
hey, by the way, I like that game. I got it for Christmas, and I love it.
Well, I think it's worthy of being an honorable mention. And the Monster World 4 remake trailer. After I talked up that being so excited,
yeah, you did.
It was like the biggest like gut punch of. I'm so excited about this. No one's talking about it much. It was around Tokyo Game Show time, and then suddenly the trailer comes out. And it's like, oh my god, this looks horrible. What's going on? I still hope they turn it around. Anyway, so our 5 nominees for biggest I'm disappointed is CDPR or CD Projekt Red's quality control, Nintendo's legal takedowns, and everything to do with how they've handled the community woes. Ubisoft's sexual misconduct. That was a big story in the middle of the year. That was almost the biggest news story, but I think the other one mentioned it out. Halo misses the Xbox launch, and the NVIDIA cards launch debacle.
I feel like I know which one Mike's going to go for.
No, see, I don't know. So they're all interesting in their own way, other than Ubisoft itself didn't have sexual misconduct, so that's phrased a bit incorrectly.
Well, it was the easiest way to phrase that than
yeah, I know.
like
come on,
people that did or something.
I know.
I like how Mike adds nothing. He's like these YouTube commenters adding nothing and just like this little comments.
Actually, it wasn't Ubisoft themselves.
Actually.
Okay, so I'm obviously tossing between the whole Nvidia issue. Only because I was looking forward to that one, but also the quality.
And you were
control.
disappointed.
That was probably, to be honest, I'm more disappointed at what happened with Cyberpunk.
So, do we want to broaden quality control also out to like the CEO's handling of everything? Like basically,
just the whole
their mismanagement of that. Or
I reckon, yeah. So everything from and look, I do acknowledge and understand the difficulty of launching something like that. But I still think it could have been managed better, and there should have been more delays, etc. And they should have stuck to their story of only launching a product when it's actually ready. But I understand it's a lot more complex than that when you start signing contracts and deals with the likes of Microsoft and Sony and whatnot. So I'm gonna go with that one, I reckon. Even though I'm super disappointed that I couldn't get my hands on a graphics card, still can't.
So I'll just say again with the Nintendo legal takedown, obviously. There is disappointment there, but there's no surprise there.
That happens every year.
Well, it just all happened to kind of, I think, specifically with the Smash community stuff, that really reached a head. And it's still at that point, like, we don't know where it's all going to go from here. But because it's unsurprising, Nintendo have generally not been very supportive of the like competitive communities, and have also been super protective of their IP, as you know. I don't think that deserves to be considered, but I think it was still worthy of a nomination.
Yeah, look, I think I do want to. I was going to suggest changing the name, and then Mike had his little comments. So I thought I better not. But Yeah, I think the CDPR one, I wouldn't say quality control because I think, the devs and the QA team, they need the time to be able to build these things correctly, and they obviously are capable of making incredible things. It's the management really. So like if that's CDPR's management, like I think that's the clear winner
There
for
we go.
me.
I've renamed it CDPR's mismanagement.
Yeah. And I think it is such a disappointment. I mean, genuinely, you can't argue. It's definitely the most wanted, most looked after, most sought game of the generation. And it's just a complete debacle of a launch. It's like for consoles.
I think when you add in the crunch stuff,
yeah,
this is an easy winner.
Well, yeah, you had 4 delays, crunch, the backing off, in the investor calls, they're saying, oh no, crunch is not a big deal. And then literally 1 hour later, they're emailing the whole staff going, oh, we're so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Or it's just not a great year for CDPR's board and senior management. That's for sure.
All right. So I think we've decided on a winner for that one.
Not the kind of thing you want to win.
No.
Okay,
so now we go to so we've got some dual categories, just like we had big small story, biggest big story and biggest small story. I've screwed myself up with this naming, but it's still with it. Now we've got biggest face of the year and biggest heel of the year. So using wrestling terminology, biggest good guy, biggest villain, basically. So starting with biggest face of the year. So we've described that as person or company that did great stuff or gave away lots of free stuff. So we don't have any honorable mentions for this one. So there's 5. So first nomination is Epic Game Store for all the free games that they gave away, and essentially creating half of Integot's gaming library. We have Xbox Game Pass because we're complete shills. And honestly, they've added crazy stuff in this year. This year it's gone pretty crazy.
I mean, can I just say we're not complete shills. You're the complete shill. Your video graphic is an Xbox Hall of Fame that you got.
I didn't create, but that's fine. That's all good.
And also, they're not giving it for free because you're paying for the Game Pass.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. So it's kind of that's why it did great stuff. They added, but also we're just shills. So the third nomination.
You're the
third nomination. Hey, even you've admitted you're a shill for Game Pass. Integot. Third nomination is Fizzy, so that's the creator of Melee mod Slippy that we mentioned before. Then we've got The Last of Us Part 2's accessibility options, and anyone that hasn't seen what they've done there, go check out Game Maker's Toolkit. They did their roundup. Each year they do a video covering Mark Brown. He covers the accessibility and where they've gotten to this year and how the big titles have fared, and that game is crazy, the work they've done, and now I understand why it won the Game Award for it. And the 5th nominee is actually something a lot of people might not know about, but it's it's called, well, I've named it here as hashtag Hyperdot A11Y or Ally, I guess. And what that is Hyperdot is a game where it is able to be used with a lot of accessibility options, specifically for people with a lot of physical disabilities, and that aren't able to use standard control methods. And they actually did a huge campaign that was linked to a research project, and that's where the hashtag comes from. So they actually got the communities to contribute, and it actually created this big research project around how we can adapt games for people with disabilities. So it's really, really good. I guess project that they ran. So I think for me, there's an easy one for this. I got to give this to Fizzy, creator of Melee mod Slippy, because this guy, from all accounts, quit his full-time job. This isn't a. Correct me if I'm wrong, Integot. This is not a paid mod of any type. In any way.
No, he did have Patreon.
He had a Patreon, but you didn't need to pay to get access to this mod, correct?
Yeah, so you did for the beta version, but yeah. So I didn't pay for it, and I've played it a lot or a bit.
So considering the impact this has had for someone that has given their time and essentially for, I'd say probably very little financial gain. I'm sure he's gotten support, but he didn't do this for that reason.
No.
It has essentially it has revived an entire gaming community in a lot of ways. It is like the work that they've done is just amazing. And I know that Mike's probably not able to speak to it, and I haven't used the mod myself, but I just can't go past the fact that an individual has done this. To me, they're the good guy.
I haven't played it, but given everything you guys have said about this, I'm sold on it. The fact that a guy quits his job, if that's the case, and then does this and contributes to the community and does a really good job of it is huge. Because when I look at something like the Epic Game Store, it's a marketing ploy in the end. It's nice, it's really cool, and I love it, but in the back of my mind, there's always that, but these guys do Fortnite, and it's just a marketing stunt to get people on their platform.
Capitalism.
Exactly. So, congratulations for that, really. With Xbox Game Pass, to me, I pay for it, so, they should earn their right to have my money, so to speak. So I'm glad that they're actually doing something. And the other categories I'm not familiar enough with. I think what happened with the accessibility options, it's really cool, but I think the impact is huge, but it's for a relatively smaller number of people in that sense.
Well, so is the Melee.
It's a hell of a bigger impact. Well, I guess that's the thing. That's the same as the Melee. It might be a small community, but I guess the impact is pretty big. So I think, I'll go with your choice as well.
Well, can you give me an opportunity to convince you to change your mind?
Nah. Okay, fine. What?
So you know that I'm an Epic Game Store shill, so it probably surprise you that for me, the clear winner is The Last of Us Part 2's accessibility options. Now, okay, so let me lay out the argument. So these guys, and I'm not I haven't played Last of Us 1 or 2, right? So I'm not a shill for Naughty Dog or anything like that. But I think it's pretty amazing to me that they're making this game. It's a huge game. It's taken so long. And they actually had some fans that reached out to them. And it got all the way up to Neil Druckmann. And it was basically like, look, my son isn't able to play this game because there's some parts of the game that you have to press like A or, X cross repeatedly. And it sort of, limits him playing it, and he loves it and he wants to see the story. And it just seems like, I think the letter basically was like, it just seems unnecessary. It's like, why do you have to do that? Why do you have to gate it from them? And it actually really struck a chord with the whole team. And so much so that they actually just said, you know what, the whole game, we've got to think about the whole game and how are we stopping people from playing the game? And how do we open the game up to people? Because they just want people to enjoy the story and, that journey that the characters go on. And why do we have to artificially put things in front of it? And I can say, I'm very much a capitalist on the podcast, but, this is definitely not a money-making exercise. Like, this is costing them money, and they're investing money, essentially, to do this.
In the sense it opens it up to a broader audience.
Yeah, marginally.
A feel good story, and which I think is also great for marketing, let's face it. So,
and sure.
Because of that, I think they did it for what are probably very genuine reasons. But I think a lot of investment benefits in that sense.
I totally agree. I think, with these things, and I've worked at places where we're doing something, it's definitely not making money because I can see the numbers. But, given that we are doing it, hey, why don't we promote it? Right? You don't want to, waste any good opportunity. So I just think things like this, and I know with Valhalla, like you even start the game with accessibility options. I think that this really does have to become the norm for games. I think it's very unfair to gate things off, even if it is a small part of the community, just because, the inability to do certain things in a game, which doesn't really need to be the way it is. And, for people who are able to, do those quick actions in the regular way, like they can still do that. Like, because they said that
distract from
the
rest of the experience for other people. So I think it's a nice little thing to add for people to need.
So to me, I think, given this category, that I'd rate that as the number one thing. So what do you think, Mike? Where do you land? Or have I convinced you, Swinny?
So I think that we've already given credit to Slippy in the small story. I'm happy to go with Last of Us.
Oh, there you go.
Cool.
I do find it amusing that the people who are like massively into Slippy voted against it in that category.
Well, I think you did have a very strong argument. So
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the fun one.
Blame him.
All right, now we've got the next one is biggest heel of the year. So this is the biggest villain. So we've got one honorable mention, which was Mr. Wizard. We mentioned before one of the Evo founders, and all the claims, alleged claims, and everything. Yeah, not good, but honorable mention or dishonorable mention. So our 5 nominees for biggest heel of the year. First is COVID-19.
Are we really having COVID-19? That's a joke, right?
No, that's not a joke. I think that's
a very valid nomination.
Well, that's going to win. It's going
we haven't discussed any of this stuff,
mate. It's a 1 in 100-year pandemic. Like, are you serious?
All right, well, it's there. It's a nominee. You had a chance to dispute it.
I can't even see my family at Christmas. Well, I'm not voting. I'm voting for the Smash community.
Let's talk about the nominees. All right, the rest of the nominees.
We'll go straight back to this.
Hey, don't let me finish because I know it's distorted. So next is the Smash community and specifically all the allegations and just it, like a lot of the big content creators, zero allegations against them. And, whether or not there's truth to everything or there's not, it was a horrible stain on the Smash community. We have MSI allegedly scalping graphics cards. So that was, I remember, a big story on the week that I was in hospital. Thanks, Mike and integot. Next, we've got The Last of Us Part 2 bigots and the people that were bombing Metacritic specifically because they dared to include a lot of diversity in the game. And the last nominee is Facebook for making Facebook accounts mandatory for Oculus VR headsets.
So let's go back to COVID for a second. Here's why I think it's not the winner.
Okay,
so this
go on.
is the gaming podcast we're on, right?
But don't put it on the list.
No, but I think it should be on the list. But I think the reality is it's probably done more for gamers than it having a negative impact, in the sense that people have had more time to actually stay at home and play games. So I don't think it's been a villain in that sense for the gaming community. Yeah, okay, it's disrupted some of the gaming events, and you can go there in person. But other than that,
games.
People have more time. They don't have to waste time with their families. They don't have to waste time with their...
E3 was cancelled. That's what I'm going to say. E3 was cancelled.
Yeah, but look at all the positives. You save, a lot of people spend 2 hours a day commuting to work back and forth, right? That's 10 hours a week. It's 10 hours they could have spent playing a game now. Boom. Multiply that by how many weeks this thing's been going on for. That's a lot of extra games you could be playing. So, okay, all jokes aside, personally, I think I'm going to go with the Facebook mandatory for Oculus.
I thought you were going to say COVID-19 at the end of it.
And this is the reason why I actually put COVID-19 on there, because not to say that I don't think it's been an overwhelming, like I don't think it's more positive than negative, but it's an interesting discussion. That's why I wanted to have. So
I think it's pros and cons. It's done a lot of really bad things to the gaming community. I'm talking particularly.
Yeah,
I'm not
this
talking
is
about
very
the wider
specific to gaming.
Clearly, it's a bad thing, obviously. But I'm talking about for gaming. Has it been a positive or negative thing?
For the record, I'm going to exclude COVID-19 from my voting because I never want to be on the record as saying I didn't choose COVID-19 over Facebook mandatory for Oculus. I'm trying to run for political office in the future, and they're like, "But back in 2020, you said COVID wasn't as bad as Facebook."
Well, you guys, I was deep throating a banana earlier in the podcast, so I'm pretty sure my political career is gone. So
I need a 5-second censor button for you, and just for you.
You've got the deck now. You should just have my face on it, and you just
I actually think I will.
Cross.
So, like I said, COVID-19 is obviously the only winner, but outside of that, although I would say your point, Mike, around the impact on gaming, there's never been a bigger sales year for gaming. Nintendo's way up, Sony's way up, Microsoft's way up. So, you're right there, but it's definitely the biggest villain. But I'm going to park it. And I'm actually tossing between the Smash community and Facebook mandatory for Oculus, because Facebook mandatory for Oculus is just so annoying, and like I'll never get an Oculus because of it, never ever. But the Smash one's pretty massive because there's a lot of literally like content creators I'll watch that they're gone, like they're just off you, they're off the face
And
of the
they
earth
were
at the
like the
moment.
top, like Zero was the top Smash 4 player. You know, like these are top players in the competitive community as well, content creators.
Yeah.
Look, okay. So if we're kind of saying COVID-19 is almost like, well, it's unfair, and if we're talking about the rest of them, then I'm leaning towards the Smash community as well.
Yeah, can we not say the Smash community? Can we call that like the Smash? What are they called? Perpetrators?
No,
or
but
whatever.
I think that there's a lot of people there's a lot of people out there that were also defending things. Like, I just think it's no, like, man, when you're checking Reddit at the time, there were a lot of
right.
people
They were.
Now, there's a lot of people that are right to be cynical and say, okay, well, I'm going to wait to see facts. I'm not saying that. There's people out there that were actively saying that some of the stuff they were doing, which I will not mention, or alleged to have done, were fine. And it's like, look, anyway, it was a really dark period for what is otherwise a great community.
Yeah, it is.
But in that case, you know, there's a lot of good there. Whereas I can't see any good in the Facebook making.
Oh, there's no good at all. So basically, Facebook, really, let's face it, want you to have a mandatory account. So when they control you in your virtual world that they want you to spend as much time as possible, they are able to, as well as possible, keep you in there for as long as possible to serve you more ads and do whatever the hell they want to do. I think the implications to society down the track, VR becomes a big thing, are huge. There's going to be so many people that are going to be so messed up.
You could say that was the story as soon as they bought Oculus. You know, like
it was. But I mean,
that's the wider issue. Like, this specific thing we're talking about is them making it mandatory to have a Facebook account and replacing the Oculus accounts and everything. Just before we kind of just get too far into that, I just also want to make mention that the bigotry that came out of when The Last of Us Part 2 story leaked, that was disgusting. Like, it was absolutely disgusting what people were out there saying. And I'm not talking about people, when the game was released, criticizing and constructively criticizing the issues they had with the game about it being too long and stuff. I'm talking about the people that were actively out there brigading against it because of the themes and the characters and everything. And that was disgusting. I don't think it's worthy of being biggest villain of the year, but that was
touching that with a fall. Also because it's villain, not villains.
No.
Yeah, again, technicality. You can't bucket everyone into a single thing.
Of course you can.
Can't.
Okay, the last Part 2 community.
That's what these bigots do.
That game, not just because of one particular thing.
All right, so what do we say? I totally agree with what you're saying on the Last of Us stuff, Swinny, by the way. So what? So wait, what's the winner? Smash? For the loser?
Well, let's say let's go for the one that there is no. Well, MSI. There's probably no good there, but let's go with Facebook. I reckon, because there's no good part to that. You know what I mean? It's like there's still good to the Smash community. The Last of Us Part 2 is still a great game that a lot of people loved. MSI, whatever. You know, COVID is. We said we kind of excluded COVID.
Honest mistake with MSI.
All right.
Cool.
All right, let's get moving.
All right. So the next category is, this one's an interesting one. The biggest big week in gaming game of the year. So what that means is the game we talked about and covered the most on the podcast. It's like, okay, if we were going to say what game would we put as, I guess, the symbol of the podcast for what, you know, we started mid-year, but basically there's still been a lot of games that we just talked about over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's what this is. So we've got a couple of honorable mentions. One is Tales of Vesperia, because I've talked about that heaps, and you talked about Rocket League a lot. But our actual nomination, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Cyberpunk 2077, Control, Halo Infinite, and Animal Crossing New Horizons.
It's obviously Smash Brothers. You guys won't shut up about it.
So, okay, I have a different view. I think
Different view. Okay, let's hear it.
I think there's a recency bias around Cyberpunk, but we actually weren't talking about Cyberpunk that much earlier in the year, even though we knew it was coming. To me, I reckon the game that we should pick is Control, because the fact that we talk about Control so much,
I know.
and it didn't come out this year or anything.
Mike,
You guys talk about Smash Bros. Literally every episode. There's something on it.
no, but Mike, there was a whole period of time where we didn't talk about Smash Bros. Where there just seemed to be a new story. Whether or not it was, there's a new story about Control, or we're talking about Control because it's now on discount, or it's like it just happened to be mentioned all the time across like our 24 episodes. I reckon you could say Control was probably mentioned on at least 50% of them.
Well, then Control it is.
All right. And I'm always saying, oh, I really want to play this game. Oh, I got to play this game.
And you still haven't played it. What?
I bought it. I bought it.
All right.
It is really
cool. That was an easy one. All right. The next one is biggest pandemic time sink of the year. So this is a category that hopefully we'll only ever have to include once in these yearly awards.
Yes. Not an inaugural one, yeah.
I don't think 2021 is going to be much better.
So these are games that we played a lot in 2020 that were essentially perfect for relaxing and wasting a lot of time because a lot of us had a lot more time because we couldn't go anywhere.
Would you say there was a good thing with COVID that we got more time?
Let's go on.
All right.
And stuff.
Say that well. 5 nominees for this. So we have Animal Crossing New Horizons, Super Mario Maker 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Rocket League, and any Picross game. And Mike,
I know you guys.
Mike, I thought you would have added something to this category, but clearly you missed it.
I thought I did. I actually added some stuff to some of these, and for whatever reason,
in your mind.
So.
Oh yeah, that's the way Google Sheets works. It's very unreliable for that stuff. It's famous for being unreliable for that stuff.
So yeah, because I had stuff for this, but anyway, look, you guys and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I feel like that is going to be it for you. I'm going to go Animal Crossing New Horizon. I actually regret, in some ways, the amount of time I wasted on that game because I just feel empty inside afterwards. I don't feel it didn't leave me satisfied. It left me feeling like I went to the pokies or something, and I gambled at a casino, and I left with all that time wasted. It just didn't leave me satisfied at all. I regret wasting that time on that game. The only good thing about it was the cool co-op thing with my girlfriend. That was awesome.
So I'm going just like I did with Ultimate Marvel's Capcom 3, I'm going to represent the community here. And I'm also going to say Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Cool.
And the reason why I'm representing is because I never played it and I don't really want to play it. But
good.
I'd say if there's any game that you could say that people just sunk so much time into, and it launched early in the year, so it was like something that people are still playing, as you know, Integot quite well. I reckon that is essentially the 2020 time sink game of the year.
It is.
Oh, and just a quick update on Animal Crossing. So my wife, for Christmas, I got this is really crazy, like 4 boxes, each box series of cards for the Animal Crossing amiibo card thing. And these things, you get them and they're either like all doubles or like full sets, or like it's quite random how it all works. So it's like 400 cards in total. And she opened them all up on Christmas Day. She said it was actually the best Christmas present she's ever received.
Wow.
And she actually got all 400. And I was like, so thankful, man.
Awesome.
Like
that is awesome.
The amount of money, it's so expensive, this stuff. It's like ridiculous. So I'm just so glad she's got them all. So now she's got the complete set because she's very
well.
A problem now.
The amiibo cards.
Mike, you cut out. What did you say?
Is it a bit of a problem, you reckon? The amount of time she spends in that virtual world? Family in the real world?
She's not spending it. I think
she's not talking to you about.
I think we need to have a whole segment on your ideas around investing time into games and wasting times into games.
No, I'm just curious. Like, at what point does it become a bit of an addiction?
Okay, are we all right? Let's let's not spend too long on this because Animal Crossing Amiibo cards are also nominated in a category coming up.
Yeah,
true. All right. So yeah, Animal Crossing was definitely always going to be my number one in that category.
That was the first one that we all agreed on.
Yep.
Nice.
Okay.
Was it? Oh wow. Okay.
Okay, so next one is biggest game none of us played of the year. So pretty straightforward. We didn't play any of these. So now I think Mike, you put here COD Warzone. I mean, technically, I think the standalone launched this year, but I think the original Warzone launched with the Modern Warfare remake. I think last year, but I think it's still worth. I think it's still worthy of putting in and as an honorable mention. And I could be wrong about the whole launch of that as well. So the nominees, 5 of them, are Persona 5 Royal, Half-Life Alyx, Crusader Kings 3, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2.
To me, the clear winner is Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually feel that if I had played it, it would probably be the game of the year for me. Easily.
As I said a few weeks ago, I went back to play Half-Life. And it's been interesting because playing Half-Life 1, which came out in 98, Swinny, and then Mario 64, which came out in 96, like Half-Life is just still so good. It's not clunky at all. Whereas Mario 64, you know, and it's a high bar, but it is a little bit clunky now, like playing through it. So Half-Life's just amazing. Half-Life for me, easily. And then Persona 5 Royal, like, only for the fact that Persona 5 is a very old game now. Like, yeah, that would have been up there as well.
Yeah, I agree. Half-Life Alyx it is.
And Warzone did come out last year, but it was a part of Modern Warfare last year. So it got released by itself this year.
Okay, next category is biggest waste of money of the year. Now, this doesn't mean that it's not inherently negative. It could be something that we just admit that we wasted a lot of money, but it doesn't mean that we regret it. But then it could also be something we regret. So it's a bit of a mix. So we have 2 honorable mentions. We have the Cyberpunk Collector's Edition. And Mike, I think you put both of these, and 10,000 water cooling parts.
Yep. So I kind of regret both. Look, I actually don't regret either. I think the collector's edition is pretty cool, and I finally got my hands on it from my parents' place.
Can I ask how much that was?
I think it was like $440. Yeah, it's huge though.
Xbox, right?
It's massive. It's for Xbox. Yeah. I mean, the actual box is, big.
All right.
It's
I told you that. It takes up a whole car seat.
3 erections worth.
Okay.
The whole car.
Sensor button.
Massive.
All right.
So, and I actually think the content in it, as far as collectors things go, are pretty cool.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right.
Water cooling parts, I highly regret. I literally probably have about 10,000 water cooling parts.
All right. So the actual nominees is the Cyberpunk Xbox One X console, Animal Crossing Amiibo cards, which we just talked about, Chemco games and all the microtransactions that Swinny spent on them this year and last year. And anyway, Among Us, as much as that's not a big purchase, it's still something we've talked about as being a regret on the podcast for certain co-hosts. And Game & Watch Super Mario Brothers. And
I feel like Game & Watch for me is like eliminated because it's just such a cool item.
The reason I put it there is because when I actually talked about it, I kind of felt like I regretted it because I didn't feel like I could use it. Just didn't feel like it had much of a use. I liked it, but it's like, well, I just spent like $70 on this or whatever it was. It's like, well, was that really worth what it is?
Yeah,
I don't think it wins this, but yeah.
I wish I had a better memory for this stuff, but you had that awesome line where it's essentially like, this worked exactly as intended, and I was so disappointed.
I was like, I don't know what I was expecting because it's exactly as advertised or something like that.
That's exactly, that's perfect the way it's phrased. I mean, Among Us, like, we only paid like $7-8, but we only played it once for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. I played it on mobile, so suck it.
I think Chemco, you're getting a lot of achievement stuff from it. So it's like
the Chemco stuff quickly, so you know why I put this. So a lot of the Chemco games on release are like $25, right? So they're not like $10 games. But then Swinny being ridiculous. Also, when they launch, they have microtransactions with them. And those microtransactions are things like double damage and triple experience and stuff, and they generally cost about $3 or $5 each. And I will generally get like 2 of them each time I buy a Kemco game. And there's been 12 Kemco games released this year, and I haven't bought the last 2, but I've bought the first 10 of them. So when you add that up, that's a lot of money.
Like over $100.
So you spent like $300 on Kemco games.
I don't regret it.
I like the hesitation.
Yeah. That's the same as you probably for Animal Crossing Amiibo cards. You don't regret it, right? I think it's cool. Your wife enjoyed it. What's to regret about it?
Yeah, I don't have buyer's remorse. It's a big money sink, but like then again, she said it's like the best present she ever got.
Exactly. So I think it's an investment in
Okay.
her love.
It has to be the Xbox One X console.
Well, I don't regret it though. That's the thing.
This
So I
isn't
don't know.
that regret as much. It's like
Big waste of money sink. Yeah. Oh, it's probably definitely that one. I haven't even opened it. So
the fact that
But it's also a console and never run it properly.
exactly because it won't run it properly. So what's the point of even opening it?
It's got to be the number one, dude. It's
I
gotta
will
be.
open it and actually use it as a console, but at the moment I just CBF'd.
Can you do an unboxing on our channel and destroy it?
Destroy it. You want me to actually get a baseball bat, take it out the back?
Just fake it. Just fake the destruction.
I'm
of it.
happy to say the Cyberpunk Xbox One console, but I don't want to. If Mike doesn't want that, I don't want to do it. So.
I can't pick the other ones. So this is the only look. Actually, probably the Game and Watch. I wasn't super disappointed, but I don't think it was worth it. But it wasn't as much as the console, which was like what $400 something bucks. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the console. I think that's
All right, cool.
done.
All right, the next one. All right, now we're up to. Oh no, actually, there's one more before we get to those. I was about to say character specific, the co-host specific ones. So the next one is biggest mic drop of the year. So this is basically the biggest surprise, the biggest announcement that we're like, oh, what? That happened? Like, what the hell? So there's a couple of honorable mentions here, and I'll explain why I think they're honorable mentions. So first is Mass Effect. That was a great announcement, but I don't think it was a surprise. So that's why I don't think it's really a mic drop. And Perfect Dark, while it was a surprise, none of us were like, okay, that's the best announcement ever or anything like that. So the 5 nominees, first is Sephiroth in Smash Brothers, which was a great announcement of the Game Awards.
I almost think that Steve should be in instead of Sephiroth.
The reason I chose Sephiroth over Steve, because I thought about it, was Steve. We expected Steve.
Yeah, that's true. I said Steve's almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
So,
whereas nobody,
okay.
we didn't honestly expect Sephiroth. So
that's true.
The next one is Demon's Souls Remake. While I would say that was rumored in some way, it was still, I think, a good surprise, especially the launch title. Mario 3D All-Stars. I'm kind of, now I think about it, that one was like super like rumored for so long. So
yeah, we were arguing about it. You're going, it's guaranteed.
I don't know. I'm almost willing to swap Mass Effect in for there, but
yeah, can we put Mass Effect in for that?
That's good. I don't think Mass Effect's going to win, but I think it's a more worthy nomination now I think about it.
Hey, don't juke the numbers. Okay. Don't manipulate.
Avowed, which honestly, I think a lot of people are probably like, wait, what is Avowed? Because it came in the middle of all this stuff happening. So Avowed is the big Obsidian, RPG that they announced in one of the Xbox digital shows. So that's basically the next big Obsidian RPG, and it looks poised to kind of be a big, possibly first-person RPG along the lines of something like a Skyrim or something, which is interesting now that Microsoft also own Bethesda, but that's a different thing. So Avowed was a great announcement, and something that I keep forgetting was announced this year, which was Final Fantasy 16. So I don't know where I fall with this one. I love Sephiroth and Smash, but I'm almost thinking that Demon's Souls Remake is probably the best thing here.
That's my one. That caught me by surprise, and damn, it was good.
I'm going to go Final Fantasy 16. I think, although, it seems obvious, right? There's going to be a 16, just the way it was announced, and then also the fact that it is a bit more of a going back into the franchise's history. And I think it's kind of like a change that most people wanted. So yeah, I'm saying 16, but I think Demon's Souls, the good thing about it is it seems like a great game. So
cool.
It's amazing.
All right. Now we've got 3 categories that are specific to us each. So a host specific category, starting with me, of course, because, I'm the best, is Swinny's biggest Smash main of the year. So we've mentioned it in passing before, but I tend to play a lot of characters in Smash, sometimes to the detriment of not learning one well enough. But
as do I.
You do, but you don't consider them all your mains. Like,
no, that was a joke. That was a joke. I basically only play Inkling.
That's true. Actually, I didn't pick up on that. All right, I'm an idiot. So I had to limit this obviously to 5. There were some honorable mentions. Peach, which I did play quite a bit during the year, but that's one of my older mains. And Ike is my main from Brawl that I play quite a bit, but nothing compared to the next 5. So the 5 nominees are Byleth, Terry, Hero, Cloud, and Corrin. And I played these all a crap load because I actually started playing Smash Brothers for the first time this year, even though the game only came out a while back. So
2018.
I don't know how you feel, Integot, because you're probably the victim a lot of the time of these.
Oh, hey, we're about even. Thank you very much.
I can't go past Byleth. I think I just put the most time. Okay. I think I put the most time in the Byleth.
But what's the question? Is it the best main or
it's the biggest main?
The biggest main. I think so Corrin, super annoying. I hate that character, but no, Cloud no, Terry no. It's always going to be between Hero and Byleth.
Well, I've put more time into playing Terry than Hero. Just a lot more online as well, like playing by myself, Terry. But I think I can't go past Byleth because the distance demon is just like awesome. And Sephiroth's not on here because I haven't played Sephiroth enough, but I love those characters that have huge reach. So
I think it's Hero because that's just your personality.
My personality,
it's just like
trolling and random.
Yeah, trolling, random. I don't know. So just to explain the character quickly, Mike, it's basically a core component of this character is it has a menu where it can select special moves,
like an RPG,
and then some of them are insanely powerful, like they self-destruct.
Right.
Yeah, so it's very Swinny. Like he's losing, and then something happens that he gets luck, and then he wins, and he's like, "Oh, how good am I?" I'm like, "This is bullshit. You just got lucky," and it's so annoying. And it's like that to me is him. It's like this character is the embodiment of him.
Oh, it's good.
So anyway, you said Byleth.
I think Byleth wins. Yeah. All right, the next one. Did you guys want to introduce these ones, or you want me to introduce them?
No, you introduce them.
So
and I can talk about the games.
Okay, cool. So the next category is Mike's biggest Souls-inspired Souls-like Metroidvania of the year. So basically, the criteria is any game that Mike played.
Pretty much.
Which is 90% Souls-like Metroidvanias. So it doesn't mean every one of these is Metroidvania or Souls-like, but basically any of the games kind of fit. So the 5 nominees are Blasphemous, Morbid, The 7 Acolytes, Vigil, The Longest Night, Demon Souls, as in the remake, and Sultan Sanctuary. And by the way, these all didn't have to come out this year. It's just the games he played.
Yeah, correct. So this was a tough one, but I'll get straight to the point. It was a toss between Blasphemous and Demon Souls. I love Sultan Sanctuary. Finally played it. It's been out for a while. Amazing game. You guys should absolutely play it. Morbid, wasn't a big fan in the end. Didn't end up finishing it. Vigil, still playing it. It's not bad. Bunch of bugs. Demon Souls, amazing. But I think ultimately Blasphemous was the one that caught me by surprise. And I enjoyed the most. And I do believe you played this one as well, Swinny?
Yeah.
On Xbox?
No, I've got it on...
I played all of these on Switch other than Demon Souls,
I've got it on
obviously.
Switch, Blasphemous. I've only played the early part of it, but it's really good.
It's really, really cool, yeah. I love the art in it. Great gameplay, really cool game. Caught me by surprise. So I'm going to go for that one. Sorry, Demon Souls, as much as I love you. You've won too many other awards.
Cool, Blasphemous wins. All right. So the next host-specific category is Integot. So it's Integot's biggest amiibo of the year. So basically his favorite amiibo that was released in 2020. So the nominees are Joker, Hero, Dark Samus, and Richter.
So I actually went back to double check all of these got released this year because there were some re-releases. I mean, the amiibo cards for Animal Crossing are a re-release, so I'm not counting them. I was actually surprised it was only 4 because there was so many amiibo announcements this year, but a lot of stuff was released late last year, and then a lot of things are getting released next year.
Well, also,
including
I did originally say you could include the announcements, but I think you wanted to make it specific to release.
I want to keep it pure. I like all of these amiibo are really, really cool. Like I could make a case for any of them. Maybe Richter is probably the clear 4th. Hero, very, very cool amiibo, but I don't have a massive, like attachment to Dragon Quest. No, I'm even getting the name wrong.
You got it.
It's definitely between like Dark Samus and Joker, but it's really close because I'm much more attached to the Metroid franchise. Obviously, not Dark Samus because I haven't gone through the Prime games yet, but I have to give it to Joker. Like, if you see that amiibo, it looks insanely cool. Like, it's just an incredible little figure. So that's my number one. Next year, there's heaps coming out, so this is going to be a competitive category.
Cool. All right.
And just while we're doing it on the run, can we skip to the added category before we get into the final two?
Yeah, that's fine. So we just wanted to talk about essentially the biggest Don't Forget Me games. The games that haven't actually been nominated for anything, so we just wanted to kind of give them a bit of a shout out. So the first was Kentucky Route Zero, and the last episode of that was released in 2020. So that's now a full complete series, and I think it started in 2013. So it's good and very, very well regarded. I've still got it in Steam. I haven't played it. At some point I will, but Final Fantasy VII Remake, obviously a huge game, and there's just been, unfortunately, I just don't think it just didn't fit in the last two categories that we had, but still deserves a call out. Next is Maneater, which is a very, very fun game that I've watched a lot of footage of. I've played myself. I don't know if any of you guys have played it.
No, I like my hands.
Yeah,
so
that looks really, really fun. Where you're a shark, doing shark things. Destiny 2 Beyond Light, huge expansion. Apparently, I don't know how well it's been received, but it's Destiny 2 is obviously a huge game, but it didn't really fall into any categories. And the last one is probably even the biggest game here is Ghost of Tsushima, which Mike, you definitely played.
yes.
Yeah, it's that game is almost like perfect for Swinny. I love my third person, but perfect for Swinny, but Swinny doesn't. Swinny don't have a PS4 or PS5.
No, he's an Xbox fanboy.
Yeah,
you're just gonna skip the PS4, right? Because the PS5's got the backwards compatibility. So
well, yeah, but we'll talk about it before I actually really want to get a PS3 first, so I can catch up on some of those games.
So Ghost is like a game that's built for you, man, because you know Japanese, and I haven't played it, but people that I respect sort of go, "Hey, this game is basically a better Assassin's Creed, but set in feudal Japan." And I'm like, "Wow, this sounds like the perfect game for Swinny."
Oh yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm going to give it the nod. I think it's like such a massive game, and we don't talk about it at all.
This is not an actual category. I wasn't going to select a winner from it.
Oh, I am.
Okay, let's go with that.
You're right, Ghost of Tsushima. There you go.
I'm going to go with Final Fantasy VII Remake because, to me, it's also the biggest regret of this year. I was looking forward to that game for many, many years since it was announced. And then I got my hands on launch day, and I played it for a little bit, and then life got in the way, and I stopped. And I'm like, what the hell? It's an amazing game. And I just never got back into it yet. So now I'm waiting for a patch for PS5.
I should have put that in the games we haven't played of the year because you really
probably should have put it there, actually, yeah. Right. Well, I played it. I just didn't play it enough.
Okay.
So that's the one for me. What are you going to go, Swinny?
I already said Ghost of Tsushima. I was going to spend long on this, so Ghost of Tsushima, there we go. All right. Our last two categories. So we've got, this is another pairing. Biggest small game of the year. So it's our favorite small game of the year. When I say small game, it's a game small in scope, small in, it's generally indie titles. Some may be published by big names, but they're generally small games that don't take a lot of time. Well, one does take a lot of time, but anyway, they're generally smaller experiences. And then we'll obviously have the biggest big game of the year to round it out. But for biggest small game of the year, we have One honorable mention, I put Monster Viator. That's actually a Kemco game, but I actually think it's a fantastic game. It's interesting. We've got Monster Sanctuary as a nominee. Monster Viator is actually kind of similar in a lot of ways, where you're collecting monsters in an RPG format. But our nominees for biggest small game of the year is Tell Me Why, Don't Nod's cool episodic supernatural story, Monster Sanctuary, Crosscode, Mortal Shell, and Call of the Sea, which I don't know how Call of the Sea actually got on here because I didn't.
I shoved it on there because I thought it looked cool, and you gave a really good review of it.
Well, while you're correcting your PS4 in the video, but that's interesting. I like Call of the Sea. I don't know if I'd put it up against any of the rest of these though. So,
okay,
but so I don't know. Where do you want to start? Integot?
So I feel like this is unfair, but because I haven't played Crosscode, I had installed it and then I uninstalled it because I'm like, I've really got to play these games of some other year and catch up to you guys.
Sorry, clarify. Crosscode is on this year because it was released on consoles this year. That's why.
Oh, that's a bit of a cheat. I feel like Monster Sanctuary, just because part of the intention of the biggest small game is to shine a light on games as well. And I feel like that game just doesn't have any light shone on it at all. And it's a really cool game. It's a really cool game. Like you ended up giving it what, like 8.5 in the end? And I gave it like 8, so...
Yeah. Mike?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't played anything other than Mortal Shell. So, kind of have to go with that one.
This does make it a little problematic.
This is going to be a problem, yeah.
I have to go Crosscode.
Okay.
Crosscode is just that game, Mike.
Yep.
I reckon you'd love Crosscode a lot.
Okay. What's it about?
Crosscode.
I like how Swinny's putting Crosscode as the winner in the doc.
I'm not
the one that's putting.
Don't accuse me doing that. I'm not the purple square.
Apologies.
Mike,
this douchebag, he's just going.
Mike,
winner.
Crosscode is like a top-down 2D action RPG, but it's set in an MMO world, but just from a story standpoint. But it's absolutely fantastic, and it's got not only great like action gameplay, but its puzzles are just so well done, and it's a fantastic game. I cannot recommend Crosscode enough. Monster Sanctuary, I think, is a fantastic game, but to me, Crosscode is to me the best small game of the year. The problem with Crosscode is that it's a long game.
It's like 40-50 hours,
yeah,
right?
It's not a short game. So if we're talking about a smaller experience, well, Monster Sanctuary is also not a short game.
No, it's probably just as much, to be honest.
Whereas the other ones, like Mortal Shell, I've heard isn't super long, but Tell Me Why and Call the Sea are definitely smaller experiences. So I don't think that's something we should judge it on. It's probably more so small in terms of it's not a big AAA title.
Yeah.
Correct. All right.
See, I would put the messenger in here if it was this year and if we're allowed to put stuff that we played this year.
Well, I almost now debate this whole thing because Crosscode didn't come out this year.
Oh, then I would have put the messenger in here.
The reason but the messenger got released on consoles. Didn't get released on consoles this year.
This came out in 2018. Crosscode. Yeah. I've got to object. All right, this is a late objection.
Let me clarify. The reason why I think it deserves it is because it was released on all 3 console platforms this year. If it was just released on one of them and it was released on the other ones, I think that the fact that it was released on all 3 platforms this year, I think makes it gives it some credence there. But I'm happy if I don't care enough about this to spend ages debating it.
I love that response. I don't really care about all of this.
I like the 3-hour mark. Let's just move on.
All right, we need a better checking before.
No, I specifically knew that could come up. So are we going with that, or are we going with Monster Hunter?
Yeah, let's go with that. I know it's a really good game.
All right, cool. All right, now the biggest category, the biggest big game of the year. Now, as I mentioned at the top, not all of us have played these games. So this is more about what we think the overall biggest release of the year was. What moved the needle? What was the game of 2020? But we did limit it generally to things that were released in 2020, although on the honorable mentions, I'll mention there is an exception there. So there's actually 4 honorable mentions. So first is Flight Simulator. Second is Doom Eternal. Third is Among Us, which was the exception there, just like the Game Awards. And I also added Genshin Impact because that was a huge game this year, but it's an honorable mention just because I don't think it fits with the rest of the field. So the 5 nominees are Animal Crossing New Horizons, Cyberpunk 2077, The Last of Us Part 2, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, and Hades. Who wants to open the floor?
Cyberpunk.
I feel like Among Us probably should replace Fall Guys, but I don't think for me either of those would be my biggest big game of the year.
Me neither. It's Cyberpunk, obviously.
I do think it's between Animal Crossing, Cyberpunk, and The Last of Us, personally.
I agree. It's definitely between one of them three.
But which one?
It's hard. I could make a case for all 3. Like, I really could see
I'm
Last
the
of
only
Us.
one that's allowed to actually even vote on this because I'm the only one that's played all 3. So
No. We already said at the start, it's not about playing the game. It's just like the impact. As I get it.
The one thing to remember with Animal Crossing is, and I know you guys probably haven't, done this, but just for anyone that might be listening, is just remember that came out at the start of the year. So the fact,
Well, the pandemic, yeah.
So whereas like Last of Us Part 2, I guess like it was around the middle, that was earlier, but Animal Crossing has essentially, I think, still kind of been in the ether and been a thing for almost an entire year, I think. Whereas Cyberpunk is obviously just not its fault is at the end of the year, but it's tough. It's super tough because you could make a huge argument for each of the 3. Personally, I think it's between Animal Crossing or Cyberpunk.
It's but the thing is, I feel like Last of Us, I don't know. I'm really big on thinking about what is this going to look like in 5 years when you look back at it. Like, that's important to me because I feel like that's kind of the point of what you're trying to say with these things, the legacy stuff, right? And Animal Crossing, I think it's a fantastic game, but I do acknowledge even your point, Swinny. It's probably not the best Animal Crossing game. Like, even New Leaf is better of an Animal Crossing game than New Horizons so far with what they've done with the DLCs and all of that kind of stuff. Last of Us Part 2, I feel like eventually probably will go down as the best game of this generation.
That was meant to be Cyberpunk.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, maybe it still will. When they
are we going to take some negative points for the fact that Cyberpunk essentially didn't deliver on, or it delivered a very flawed experience for a lot of people?
Oh, God, this is a really, really tough, actually. I do think ultimately, I just, the thing with Cyberpunk, because Witcher 3 released with massive bugs on consoles.
It did, but it still ran well. That's the problem. Like, not the problem, but that's the difference. Is it still ran well? It didn't run like a pile of crap on base consoles. Well, it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of
I do.
The biggest game is also it's a little too open for.
That's why the fun of it.
Yeah, you can view it from so many different angles because I think The Last of Us as an experience was still one of the most memorable experiences I had and was one of the most polished experiences.
Maybe think about it this year, like when you think of the year, 2018, 2019, 2020, what was the one game you could say like was this is 2020?
Yeah, for me it's Cyberpunk, but again, it's tainted because I'm playing it now.
Shouldn't that be for like the year 2077?
You idiot.
I'm
now switching my vote. I'm switching my vote to Animal Crossing because now when I think about it, like in the future, I think like the funny thing about Animal Crossing, it came out pretty much at the start of the pandemic when it hit the Western world. And it's almost the antithesis of the pandemic. It's all about, this beautiful little island and you're getting other people to come and, it's all socializing and people. It's kind of like the opposite of the pandemic.
It's almost like Nintendo released COVID as a market just to get the people to buy Animal Crossing.
But even when I say that, I still
allegedly
struggle to go about Cyberpunk because it's just like I feel like in 5 years' time, people would still talk about Cyberpunk. Like as most
Yeah.
disastrous launch of a game ever.
But also maybe they'll redeem themselves by then. I don't think they'll ever fully redeem themselves, but I feel like in 2-3 years' time, they would have added so much to the game, and
but that's I think that will then turn it into a AAA version of No Man's Sky, which is even bigger.
Yeah.
Which to me makes it even more important to put it as the biggest big game, because then you go back, man, that game launched in a totally broken state, and they worked their asses off and got it working on consoles that no one even plays anymore. All that kind of stuff.
So controversial, but then kind of Last of Us was kind of controversial as well. So
where do you sit, Swinny? You're holding your cards close to your chest.
You always think I'm doing some like risk strategy.
Contrarian. Yeah, some contrarian business. You're waiting for us to pick, so then you can do your hero smash style move.
I honestly, you could make a case for specifically these three. You could make a case for any of them. I still think it's. I'm leaning towards Animal Crossing simply because the reason being is, and I've always thought about this. We've mentioned it before on the podcast. Like, this feels like the game of 2020 because. Just look at now. I know we're not talking about sales here, but just the amount of people playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. Now I know Cyberpunk sold a lot, but there's people playing Animal Crossing that just don't play games and are talking about it. Like the fact that I know this is very specific to different friendship groups and the people that you generally hang around with, but like the fact that all the partners are people also playing the game as well as the I just think that, and when you add it in with the fact that we're in, during the pandemic and kind of, Melbourne especially was in a lockdown and stuff, it just it feels like the perfect game for this year, for the absolute crap hole that has been 2020. Animal Crossing has been, and this is coming from someone that hasn't even played it and has no desire to play it because I've had my fill of Animal Crossing.
You're antisocial
with double to Nomori, No, anyway. But I think this. I gotta say that I reckon it's the game of 2020, and that's coming from someone that loves CD Projekt Red's games.
So you've steered me towards that because it just made me think. Oh, actually, Mike and I were in a group chat with our partners and some other people just on Animal Crossing, and like. Hey, my island's selling it, for this amount of dollars or bells, and everyone jumped on, crazy stuff. Like, we don't have a Cyberpunk group chat or a Last of Us Part 2 group chat. So
yeah, my partner played it quite a lot, probably more than me. Her sisters got into it. Yeah, I'm swayed as well.
Yeah, it's unanimous now. It's unanimous. Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing New Horizons is the biggest big game of the year for 2020. Congratulations.
Thanks for spreading COVID, Nintendo.
All right, we've gone long, so I think we'll wrap up the episode. If you do enjoy the podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend, buy our merch, jump on our Patreon, do all that stuff.
Yeah.
That we all have, of course. And we will be back next week. Next week, I forgot what we were going to cover. What we were going to cover, Swinny?
Well, we haven't decided yet because we're going to cover Donkey Kong Country on the 10th episode.
No. So what we're going to cover is our New Year gaming resolutions. That's right.
That's right. Yes.
Playlist
games. So, I'm really going to be interested because we've never actually got Mike on the record. Swinny does this normally, but it's going to be fun to see Mike actually go, okay, these are the things I'm going to do from a gaming perspective. I'm sure it's going to be fun. And we're going to track his progress, all of our progress through the year. So join us then next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Ciao.